with a young woman there, if you're watching on television. The DOJ, by the way, just as a bit of context, they've said that anybody who is redacted or their identity is protected in this cache of files is potentially a victim. So just bear that in mind. And of course, it is important to say that just because people are pictured, it doesn't mean they are guilty of anything. Guilty by association isn't a thing, of course. And if there is any accusations flying around, then everybody denies them. So let's just be straight from the off. So Bill Clinton, there he is with a young lady. This is a brand new picture that the world hasn't seen before. We've got another picture as well of Bill Clinton. He does feature quite heavily, actually, Bill Clinton. And we know he travelled on Epstein's plane dozens of times. Although, again, he denies any wrongdoing. Bill Clinton in a hot tub with a young lady whose face has been redacted. You've got the likes of Michael Jackson in there as well. Mick Jagger. We'll try and get some more of those pictures for you very shortly. And the once was Prince Andrew, now known, of course, as Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor. He is there as well. There's a picture of him, which we'll endeavour to get for you, lying on the laps of a row of young women, I guess, whose faces have been redacted. I'm joined in London by my panel tonight, Jennifer Ewan from Republicans Overseas, and Christo Foufas. Hello.
Hello.
Thank you for sticking around.
I'm still here.
And great to see you in the flesh again after speaking to you for so long down the line.
I'm not usually allowed to actually, for legal reasons, touch you, so I appreciate that you actually physically touch me.
Yeah, we'll keep it at that. That was your Christmas present.
There's
Jennifer, hello.
he too.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you, Ben.
What have we learned from this new cache, this new trove of pictures?
Not a lot, actually. I mean, it's all kind of very tabloid. And I guess the good news is for the victims, this goes back to, 2006? I think the first crime was reported back in Palm Beach.
Yeah.
And it was ignored. It was ignored by, local authorities and then federal authorities until, of course, somebody thought they could attach it to Donald Trump. And then the media got all excited about it, and we've seen what's happened since then. So I think people probably thought there would be a lot more information, perhaps, on intelligence agencies, on financial crimes, that sort of thing. So also we were told by Thomas Massie, who is one of the co-sponsors of the Epstein Files Transparency Bill, which is what's come out today, which is, separate than what the Oversight Committee has been releasing, that there are allegedly 20 men's names that have been allegedly, accused of sex crimes, and that he thinks if we don't start to see some of those names come out in the files, then it's very redacted. And that's more than, as you commented on, that just victims, right?
Yeah, so why are they redacted?
Well, I mean, the victim part makes sense, of course.
Yeah.
If you're a young girl or a young woman, even if it's 20 years later, you certainly do not want, I don't know who this young woman is, but there's no need for us to see her face. We kind of get the picture of what's going on. That sort of redaction, I don't think anybody has a problem with. However, if what's being redacted is actual content and facts about people who have committed crimes, whether it's sex trafficking, sex abuse, financial crimes, intelligence sort of situation, that's a problem. And people are not going to be satisfied with these 300,000 documents that have just been released.
Yeah, I mean, literally 90% is redacted. So, Christo, what politically for President Trump, of course, he ran on elections saying, we're going to release the Epstein files, and MAGA went mad and said, yes, can't wait to see the Epstein files. Then this year, the 12 months now, sorry, we're in December, he's been very reluctant to release them. And finally, after waves of pressure, he said, OK, to hell with it, release the files. We don't know why he was so reluctant. I've got my suspicions. Maybe he wanted to protect people who were donors or whatever who were in there and weren't necessarily guilty of anything. But they're out now. So is the political campaign against Trump on the Epstein files now over?
Yeah, I think that, the White House spokesperson, Abigail Jackson, said not long ago that the Trump administration is the most transparent in history. And I think that you're right to point out that you've got... I mean, Epstein was a figure that had lots and lots of money, right? And this glamorous life and all of this stuff. And that means that political figures and celebrities would gravitate towards him. That is just absolutely inevitable, that there are going to be people that are very, very well-known and prominent pictured with this man. And so that's going to mean that guilt by association rather than actual guilt will be something that will be a big concern for people. Now, I've been looking through some of these pictures, and, the Bill Clinton one is horrible, where he's sort of lying back in that. Really, it's horrible. But again, that doesn't mean he's guilty of anything. He's just friends. But I also find really interesting some of these Epstein's record keeping and the amount of photos of things that I'm looking at some of them now, like all of the VHS tapes that he kept of surveillance cameras around his house. Also, all of the CDs of all of these photos as well. He took so many photos and had many documents and things that he had kept, which is sort of weird, but also, why would he have done that?
That's what we want to see and know about, isn't it? Not these pictures of Bill Clinton with his hairy chest in a hot tub. We want to know why there were so many VHS tapes, what were on those CDs. We want to know the proper story. Did Epstein kill himself? The cameras were out, the guards were off that night.
I was suspicious.
Well, yeah.
So suspicious.
And, to your point, Chris, the record keeping was impeccable, and there's one reason for that, is that he was running a big blackmail operation. That's what was going on, and that's why he had so many high-profile people that he met up with, because whether it was compromat or whatever, whether he wanted politicians to vote in a certain way, whether he wanted certain things from, the King of Morocco, who he,
on the instruction of who, Jennifer?
You can look into this yourself, but it's a very deep belief that he was a gun for hire for a multitude of different intelligence agencies for a variety of different countries, including my home country of the United States, including Britain, including Israel, including a multitude of countries. This was an intelligence operation, hence the record keeping.
That's the stuff. I find that way more interesting, by the way.
Well, that's the story.
But what I mean is the detail in this. So, some of the notes written on the tapes, cell phone message, work, voicemail, such and such messages with some of the names redacted, follow-up call to such and such. So every single thing, every single call he ever made, he had a little tape of. And that kind of detail I find way more fascinating than pictures of celebrities.
It's definitely. He was a sex offender, sex trafficker, a weird guy, a very strange individual indeed. But as we know the DOJ knows the full story. They've redacted these files, so just get them out there. Protect the victims, yes, of course you have to. But I don't believe, looking at what I have of these files so far, the 300,000 documents, that they are all to do with protecting victims.
No, definitely not. And we heard the U.S. Attorney Todd Blanche on earlier this afternoon saying that over the next few weeks, we are probably going to see more and more coming out. It's taking them longer to do these reductions for the victims. But I think that this was dumped hoping people would say, oh, okay, this is a tabloid story. It's very depraved, obviously. It's terrible for the victims. But no, there's definitely more to this.
Yeah.
I worked in Wall Street during the 2000s, and you kind of knew the big names of the hedge fund managers and the big bankers. Nobody had ever talked about Jeffrey Epstein. He was not known as a big financier. And by the way, he also worked miraculously without any sort of qualifications at one of the biggest high-end private schools in Manhattan. So, and then he got to Bear Stearns, and then all of a sudden he's this huge money manager. It just does not add up.
He was suddenly parachuted, wasn't he?
Exactly.
From working at the school, then went into finance and was suddenly this high-flying.
Exactly.
Last question to you on this, Christo, before we move on. Is President Trump vindicated by this release of files and what we know so far? Because as a little timeline, somebody posted on X earlier, 2004, Trump banned Epstein from Mar-a-Lago. 2005, Trump reported Epstein's behaviour to the authorities. 2009, Trump cooperated with Epstein victim's lawyer. 2017, Trump signed the executive order targeting human trafficking. 2019, Epstein arrested during Trump's presidency. 2019, the FBI raid on Epstein's island, the same year as the presidency. And 2025, Trump releases the Epstein files. So is Trump vindicated? I
think that it's fair to say that he probably is, because he seems to be making progress in sending this stuff out. The conspiracy theorist will wonder is Trump being redacted? What does Ghislaine Maxwell know? There's so much that the conspiracy theorists will say. But I think the wider point is that even if there are pictures of Trump with more pictures of Trump with Epstein, more pictures of him. Even if you had a picture of Trump in the hot tub like you've got with Bill Clinton, I don't think that Trump followers will care.
Plus, it would have come out. The Democrats had these files for 4 years. They indicted the guy over 90 times. They would have come out.
They did the last...
So I don't think anyone thinks he's implicated in that way.
The last release that they did was such a damp squib.
Yeah.
It really was. There was just like nothing to it. There was so
it's a great point.
He is.
It's a great point, Jennifer. They tried to kill this guy, President Trump. They tried to impeached him. They indicted him. They tried to jail him for life. Are you telling me that if Trump was up to no good on Epstein Island, they wouldn't have had out by now to stop him?
Yeah.
I think the worst is a couple of pictures of him with him.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know what, where Trump is probably open for criticism is that he underestimated how much his base, how much America First said, we sent you to Washington to clean up this garbage and be transparent. And you need to open this up. And he did. He signed the law 30 days ago, today. So.
Right. gbnews.com/your say. Let us know what you think on the latest release of the Epstein files, and we will endeavour this hour to get those new pictures to you, including the one, I'm sure you're all staying up for it, of Bill Clinton in the hot tub. It's a sight to see. Right. Our other top story this evening. First, of course, it was digital ID. Then it was the removal of juries. And yesterday, the government dropped its afternoon briefings with journalists. So if you don't know what they are, basically, the government, a spokesperson, will meet journalists called the lobby, they're political journalists, and it will be the government's way of communicating with the free press in this country and getting their message out to people like you at home, to the media, and also vice versa, journalists holding the government to account. But the government have now dropped those afternoon briefings. Talk about transparency. This on the week that, of course, is set up a number of councils postponing elections next year. So with all that in mind, are Labour getting just a little bit too authoritarian with their power? But it gets worse as well, because this week, James cleverly told GB News this.
We should not be cancelling elections. Elections are the foundation stone of democracy, and we absolutely should not be cancelling elections. What we've seen is the Labour government, both arrogant and naive and cocky, thinking they can completely restructure English local government.
Well, 2 of the 9 Conservative councils, East Sussex and West Sussex, my neck of the woods down on the coast, they've asked to delay their local elections by a year to May 2027. A Tory spokesman told GB News that Kemi Badenoch will not order her councils to go ahead with the election. So Kemi seemingly approves. They said, the spokesperson, Kemi Badenoch is the Conservative Party leader, but she respects local Conservative council leaders. She's been clear that she wants the local elections to go ahead, but it's ultimately a decision for local council leaders. Well, to debate this now, I'm joined by Tom Hunt, the former Conservative MP, and the former Labour advisor, Paul Richards. Good evening, chaps. Nice to see you. Paul, I hope you're well. Good to be speaking to you again. Let's start with you. What are you all up to? They seem to be, you know, it's the typical left. They go around calling, I don't know, people racist and bigots and totalitarian and Nazis and authoritarian. Same old story, Paul. They are guilty of the very thing they accuse others of being.
Well, you've never heard me use any of those words, Ben. Welcome home, by the way. Nice to have you back in London. The point of this is to put more power and more money in the hands of local communities, get rid of the two-tier government that most people don't even know who their county councillors are. And don't forget, only a third of people even vote for these. You used the word cancelled earlier. They're not being cancelled, they're being postponed at the behest of Conservative-led councils, by the way. And cleverly needs to do one, because the Tories did exactly the same thing in Buckinghamshire and elsewhere when the same thing was in play when the Conservatives were in government. So this is perfectly normal. And they're not being, you know, there's not some authoritarian bid to cancel elections. It's just saying let's have them when the time is right, a year later than planned, so we can get it all right and get the ducks in a row so that the devolution deal works. That's
I guess in isolation you could get away with that excuse, Paul, but in the context of juryless trials, digital ID, etc., it just doesn't look good, does it?
Well, I don't think those three things are in any way related. I mean,
why has Labour dropped the briefings with the lobby journalists?
Well, because we don't have the same media with the same deadlines, and we're going to invite in people like influencers and YouTubers and all the things that are actually very similar to what's been happening in the West Wing, as you know well, with Trump. You know, that you can't rely on the old media cycle of a newspaper coming out in the morning. Media is 24-hour now, so those old afternoon lobby briefings are just defunct, really. Great.
OK, Tom, what's your take on this sorry charade?
I think it's deeply worrying. Of course, let's remember that these councillors, most of them were county councillors, they were elected in May 2021. I mean, that was a political lifetime ago. They're all on full allowances paid for by the taxpayer. The elections were meant to be last May, so even if they were next May, that would be 5 years, which is a year longer than they ought to have been elected for. And now the suggestion is it becomes 6 years. I think it's deeply worrying. I think today we saw a statement from the Electoral Commission, which is highly unusual for the Electoral Commission to put out such a robust statement. And I think the public will see this for what it is. And actually, the Labour Party can't run away from the electorate forever. Eventually, I think it will probably backfire. But on terms of the point of the Conservative Party, well, of course, it was a few months ago, there was a story, I think, in the Times saying that Conservative-led authorities were trying to pressure the Labour government to try and delay these elections. And then today we've had 2 Conservative-led councils calling for these elections to be delayed. We've had leadership figures in Westminster from the Conservative Party saying they should go ahead. I mean, it's all very confusing. I think the statement from Kemi Badenoch is quite a weak statement, which effectively says, well, she sort of wants them to go ahead, but she's not actually going to do anything to the Conservative leaders who want to delay them. So I think a lot of the public looking at this, particularly voters who are already turned off the 2 main parties, they'll look at this and think it's just more of the same. It's basically
there's a reason your former party and the Labour Party are called the Uni Party, because they're just separated by colours, fine, but really, some people watching this would argue you just behave in the same old way. Paul, I'd argue myself that Labour, this government, shows absolute disdain for the electorate at the moment. They think people are stupid. They think you can cancel elections, have juryless trials, digital ID, you can bang on about growth and deliver no growth, and then try and deliver this pantomime that things are going well. You say you'll stop the boats and the boats keep coming. I think this government treats people like they're just a bit thick.
Well, I think the devolution deal is actually putting more trust and power in the hands of people. It's pushing power out from
the Electoral Commission doesn't think so.
The Electoral Commission are complaining about the delay of the election, and it's a delay and postponement, not a cancellation. You keep saying cancellation, and it's not, because these are for new bodies that don't exist yet. Big elected mayors for Sussex, for example, abolishing the Police and Crime Commissioner. And Tom's point about cost, which is the one he led with, what's the point of electing a load of people next year and then having another election 12 months later? Because it will cost a load of money. These people are elected. They can carry on their mandate. Sorry, go on, Ben.
How much is it going to cost?
Well, it's millions, isn't it, to hold a set of local elections?
Well, Labour have just dumped 600 million on the Erasmus scheme that they didn't really need to do right now. So are they concerned about money or not?
Well, that's not the same budget, isn't it? Erasmus gives young people the right to travel and study across Europe.
There was already an existing scheme. Why did they need to spend 600 million quid sending people to Europe?
Because it didn't work. They're not sending people to Europe, but if a young person wants to study in Europe, they can through Erasmus.
My point being is that you're saying there's no money for this is the founding of this nation. We gave democracy to the world. Okay, maybe the Greeks, but this isn't just some policy we're talking about, some willy-nilly policy, and people are muttering under their breath and saying, "Well, that's a shame." This is the foundation of our country. I live in West Sussex when I'm not in DC. My bins are collected once every, I think it's 3 weeks now. I'd like to vote on that. I'd like to vote in my local councillors and put my thoughts to them and tell them, no, that's disgusting that my bins are collected once every 3 weeks.
I think that level of local accountability is really important. Now, most people can't even name their county councillors, and they don't know who empties the bins and who does the recycling, and why it's 2 different councils that do that. It's just a nut system. So we're moving to a system where you'll have a clear, accountable local councillor with a unitary authority and a mayor on top of that in Sussex and some of these other places. It's far more accountable, better value for money, and if we have to wait a year to get it in place, it's worth getting it right is the important thing here, not rushing into it, and democracy will flourish. And I hope that more than a third of the people that vote will actually vote. Let's get it up to, maybe even 50%, 60% voting with this new system, because I'm as big a Democrat as anyone. I believe in democracy as much as anyone. I'm involved in it every day of my life. But 30% is not good enough. We can't rest on the laurels there.
Tom, you're shaking your head. Last word to you.
Look, I think ultimately, the Labour government are playing at fire with this issue. When you start playing around with elections in this way, I think you will reap what you sow. And I think the British public are watching this, they're monitoring it. And I think that a lot of them will be incredibly angry. I also think the Conservative Party have sort of tried to be quite clever with this. And again, I think the public will see through that.
Tom, are you coming out as reform? Are you coming out as reform tonight?
Ultimately, I'm sorry, I'm answering the question I was asked. ultimately,
that would be a story.
I'm sorry, I've listened to you very patiently. You were going on for a very long time about trying to defend the indefensible. I'm now talking about these local elections. But ultimately, as we're seeing with council by-elections every week, we will get those results of those elections eventually, and they will not be good for the Labour Party. We've seen more council by-elections this week that have been absolutely dreadful for the Labour Party, and the more they seek to undermine democracy in the way it's done this week, the more those results will be even more painful.
OK. Tom Hunt, former Conservative MP, thank you, and former Labour advisor Paul Richards, great to see you both. Appreciate your company tonight. If you want to know what our viewers think, gbnews.com/your say. Ali has said, I've never seen a more angry Britain in my 56 years. We all want to vote and are entitled to that. This government is driving the UK the wrong way and are not protecting Brits. They're bringing in things that we do not want and did not vote for. This is treason. Thank you. Keep those coming in. gbnews.com/your say. Right, just before we go to the break, we're showing you live pictures now of US President Donald Trump, who is about to depart Joint Base Air Force Base Andrews en route to Rocky Mount in North Carolina. That's near my brother, actually. And there he is on screen now. Live pictures. He's disembarking. Is that Marine One, the helicopter? Is that Marine One, Jennifer?
Looks like it.
Yeah, he's coming off. He's just landed or is heading at least to North Carolina, where he will deliver some remarks. I think we'll probably get those remarks as soon as he goes live. Stick with us on The Late Show Live.
Politics is not the sisterhood of the traveling pants.
Oh, that was tasty. Civil war erupts amongst Conservatives at a Turning Point USA event. We had the likes of Ben Shapiro, Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson's had a weird little adventure. People accusing him of being funded by Qatar, no less. We'll break down the biggest moments of that in just a second, but first... that was the Australian Premier Anthony Albanese. He was saying, there was no sound on that clip, unfortunately, apologies. He's talking about bringing gun laws back under scrutiny after the Bondi attack. I mean, it's hardly surprising, is it? 15 people were killed, of course, after those two terrorists, the father and son, opened fire at the Hanukkah event. And there's also a clampdown on free speech in Australia as well. I could have predicted this. I think it's a knee-jerk reaction to go for the guns and not the ideology when something like this happens. It's too easy and you're focusing on the wrong thing. People are demanding change, but what's the right answer? We'll discuss that next on The Late Show Live.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back to The Late Show Live with me, Ben Leo, in London for tonight. Hurrah! Right, the debate over gun laws is once again making headlines after 15 people were tragically... they weren't just killed, were they? They were murdered in cold blood by a bunch of scumbags, two scumbags, father and son, in Bondi, Bondi Beach in Australia. The Aussie Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, has promised tougher penalties for those spreading hate and radicalisation, as well as a gun buyback scheme.
There are now more than 4 million firearms in Australia. More than at the time of the Port Arthur massacre, nearly 30 years ago. The government will introduce legislation to support the funding of this buyback scheme and meet the costs on a 50-50 basis with states and territories. We expect hundreds of thousands of firearms will be collected and destroyed through this scheme.
It's a shame they're not introducing legislation to tackle radical Islam, Islamist ideology. I mean, it's not... Again, I'll argue with anybody about this. Well, let's argue now with Ken Hines, or at least debate Ken Hines, the CEO of Communities Against Violence. Ken, good evening. Nice to see you. What is this from the Aussie Premier banging on about taking people's guns away and making it harder to get guns? Why not focus on the actual problem?
But first of all, I would like to send my deep heart condolence to all those affected in Australia by that horrendous event, the attack, you know, on defenceless and innocent people, which is just, you know, out of order.
Well said, Ken.
But to get on to the point of what the Prime Minister is now doing, and it's rightly, it's a knee-jerk reaction, because it wasn't the gun that did the killing, it was the person behind the gun who did the killings. And I would surmise that anyone holding a gun to have some kind of psychological test evaluation done periodically to see the fitness to hold it, because this person here held a license for guns, and the kind of work I do over here with youngsters who are involved in these the turf war, whether it's postcode or whether it's drugs or whether it's just violating people. Again, if they're determined and want to step their game up, they will have a gun around them.
Where do they get their guns, Ken, in London? Where do these kids get their guns from?
They get it from outside source. It comes in from outside of outside the UK, coming in by various means, even by post. Yes, in some cases.
Goodness me!
Right? Even by post.
That's a concept.
It comes in because they can put it together when it's on this side here, so that it doesn't get detected. But as I was saying, any measure that's going to reduce the amount of weapons out there has to be applauded and be a positive thing. But that on itself is not going to solve the issue around people mental well-being, because if you've got low self-esteem, you can be kind of
just a
persuaded.
nutcase Islamist who wants to kill Jews. I mean, yeah, it could be anything. Ken, hold the line. My panel's here, Christo Fifas and Jennifer Ewing. Jennifer, if this Bondi attack, God forbid, happened on a beach in southern Texas, it would have been over a lot quicker than we saw in Australia.
It would have, because there would have been a person who was legally carrying a gun who would have shot the perpetrators. So, yeah, it would have been over before 15 people, sadly, were murdered.
It's so predictable, isn't it? Anthony Albanese, you know, you have a tragedy like that, and the first thing you do is say, right, we're clamping down on speech and we're clamping down on gun ownership and the access to guns.
Yeah, it's extraordinary. And, you know, Americans, I know we have a view that's often unpopular in this country, but we have the right to bear arms against enemies, foreign or domestic. And what nobody talks about in the States is how much guns are used as a deterrent for more crime happening. You know, oftentimes there's crimes that are stopped and nobody even fires a shot. You just know, hey, I'm not going to do that, because to your example, Ben, of like a beach in southern Texas or whatever, you know, hey, there's got to be a certain percentage of people who are armed here. So it's crazy that they looked at this murdering of Jewish people at their festival and go, oh, I know what'll help is let's de-arm more of the Australian population and then, you know, hinder their free speech. So.
Yeah, well, typical Australian government. Look how they behaved during COVID. I mean, they love their power, don't they? They love stamping on the ordinary man. Christo, what's your take on gun ownership? I mean, it's different from country to country, of course. America, they love their guns, and I'm pro-gun in America, at least.
Yeah, and I respect that it's a really integral part of American culture and its constitution. I'm not sure I buy... You know, I agree that perhaps if someone had been on the beach in Australia that was a responsible gun owner, they could have taken out the terrorists. But the problem is that with more wide gun ownership, how many other unhinged people might have committed other acts of terror on other occasions?
Well, they'd otherwise get a knife, wouldn't they, or an axe?
Well, yeah, but a knife, it's harder to harm as many people. I don't think if it was a knife, you'd have had 15 people that would be killed. But also, would that gunman... You know, I just think about... you know, the amazing guy that Ahmed Al-Ahmed, who managed to wrestle the gun out of the hands of the attacker. Well, if he was holding that gun, some vigilante with another gun might have gone, oh, he's an attacker, and shot him. So I think that sometimes you don't know that it's always going to be better. However, where I agree with you is that the worst possible time to look at legislation around gun ownership is straight after an attack like this. What you need to do is look into were the gun ownership laws a contributing factor to how these people managed to have access to guns and decided to go.
Well, how about the Aussie government do their job? They were dealing with the son. They were investigating him for links to ISIS for some period of time, and then didn't look at the fact his father had 6 rifles under a gun licence.
Absolutely.
I assume they knew they were father and son. I mean, it's not hard work.
And that's why what you do is you then investigate what the hell happened, what contribution did it make, and then you see, because you could find quite easily that the gun laws actually had nothing to do with this, in which case it's a virtue signal rather than actually solving the problem.
Ken, last word to you. Do we need guns on the streets of Britain? Should the police be armed, every police officer, as they are in the United States? Should we have gun licences for people to carry pistols in Britain?
Well, we do have armed police on our street, but whether you want it to be more widespread, I would hasten to say, so long as they have that psychological test and it's done on a regular basis, then, you know, I have no qualms about police being armed here in the UK.
I mean, I think it's fair to say you will always, just by the law of averages, you will always get some incident where somebody's lost their head, and unfortunately something will happen if you've got guns so readily available. But I would love to know the statistics for the number of other potential events, terrorist attacks, shootings, murders, which were stopped by other people just simply being armed. As Jennifer said, it just would reduce the chances dramatically. Ken Hines, thank you so much. Appreciate you joining the show tonight, the CEO of Communities Against Violence. gbnews.com/your say. Let us know your thoughts on that. Coming up next on The Late Show Live.
We are going to get my husband's friend, J.D. Vance, elected for 48 and the most resounding way possible.
President Trump's second term as president comes to an end his first year, dramatic 12 months, but attention's already shifting to the 2028 White House race. Erica Kirk there, the widow of Charlie Kirk, saying she will do everything in her power for J.D. Vance, Charlie's friend, to get elected as president next time round. And by the way, some breaking news tonight. It's been revealed that Charlie Kirk himself was mooted to be Vance's vice president should he still be alive, quite frankly. Also tonight, thousands more Epstein files have been released, and they include pictures of Michael Jackson, Mick Jagger, Bill Clinton, the once was Prince Andrew, of course, just to name a few. We'll unpack that next on The Late Show Live. Back in a sec.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Stephen Dixon, and thanks for joining us on GB News, Britain's news channel.
To The Late Show Live. Let's go back to that breaking story, shall we? Another trove of files, 300,000 to be precise, linked to Jeffrey Epstein have just been released by the Department for Justice in the United States, courtesy, of course, ultimately, of President Trump, containing thousands of documents. Many of the files are heavily redacted, but they contain certain images of, well, there's one on your screen there, Michael Jackson next to Jeffrey Epstein, Mick Jagger, the Rolling Stones frontman, and Bill Clinton as well. Well, to unpack the latest developments, I'm joined by Simon Hankinson, the Senior Research Fellow in the Border, Security and Immigration Centre at the Heritage Foundation, who joins me live from Washington, D.C. Simon, good evening. Thanks for your company. What do you make of this latest trove of pictures, including, I think, the best picture, Simon, is this one of Bill Clinton in the bathtub, or the hot tub, rather. What's your take?
Well, look, I mean, there's going to be a whole weekend of people rifling through 7,000, 500 links, and there's redactions left and right. But what are people really looking for? They're trying to find Lord Lucan shacked up with Amelia Earhart on the island, you know, with the Lindbergh baby. I don't know what is at the core of this that both sides are hoping to find. It's a double-edged sword. There's prominent Democrats, prominent Republicans, prominent business people. The core of the story is Oddly, nerds like to go for free to an island where there's, lots of young women. The scandal and the crime is, were those women coerced? Were they underage? And that's the evidence that I think people are going to be looking for. There was one thing I saw, a 1996 complaint by a photographer who said that Epstein had taken negatives and photos that she had taken of her own sisters who were 12 and 16 swimming in the pool, and he tried to sell them to somebody else, and that when she complained about it, he threatened to burn her house down. That's the kind of bombshell that we might find in these revelations from the court cases. The pictures of smiling people with Jeffrey Epstein, like Michael Jackson, Walter Cronkite, Bill Clinton, Bill Gates, Prince Andrew, that's all out.
There was a new picture just there on your screen. I'm not sure if you could see it. It was the once Prince Andrew laying down on the laps of there we go, various women. Simon, am I right in saying that the DOJ have said if there's anybody whose identity is hidden, their faces are redacted by these black blocs, that potentially they are victims?
Not necessarily. I mean, they are supposed to be able to redact if it's national security information or there's a national security risk, if there are victims, if there's any evidence of child sex abuse. And of course, we have to remember that just being guilty by association is not in anyone's interest either. There have been a lot of people who've been accused of doing things that they obviously have not done, or at least there's no evidence that they've done. So you shouldn't be able to put pictures of every Tom, Dick, and Harry up for the internet and the world to see unless they've actually been accused of doing something.
I'm just laughing, Bill, because somebody on gbnews.com/yoursay is getting funny with some puns. Bill has said, got no sympathy for the devil, I think referencing Mick Jagger. And Bill again has said, Mick went for some brown sugar. That's why he was there. Simon, just finally, what does this mean politically for President Trump? Is it over with now? Has he shaken off the Epstein kind of monkey on his back?
Look, I think with each revelation and tranche of documents that shows that Trump basically did what he said he did, which is they were friends till sometime around the early 2000s when Epstein annoyed him and they broke the friendship. I haven't seen any new evidence, but obviously there's a lot there to trawl through that puts Trump in a worse light than he was before. But no, it's not behind him because as long as there's documents that haven't been released and that haven't been combed through and that are even slightly redacted, the conspiracy theory wheels will turn. So I think the more that can be gotten out, the more people can look through it and get to the bottom of whatever it is, which is probably not much at this point, the better it is for all concerned.
Simon, great to see you. Thanks for your company, and we'll catch up soon when I return to DC in the new year. Take care. Thank you. Right, stick with us on the Late Show Live. We'll take a look at the biggest headlines in tomorrow's papers, including David Walliams accused of harassing female staff at his publisher. But more pressingly, Rachel Reeves accused of ruining Christmas. I wonder who for? For the pensioners? For the farmers? No. For workers? No. This time, businesses. Shops suffer disastrous December after £30 billion budget tax raid. More of that in just a sec on the Late Show Live.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to The Late Show Live. Let's delve into some of the main stories on the front pages tomorrow, starting with The Independent. The headline reads, Ukraine gets €90 billion boost and blows up a Russian ship in the Med. Very good. The Telegraph, David Walliams, accused of harassing female staff at his book publisher. I believe he's had his contract there terminated. The Guardian, number 10 told, fix youth jobs or risk a lost generation, and the rest. The Sun, James gets down on one knee. This is a story about the TV chef James Martin getting married. The Mirror, Wills joins the SAS. A story about Prince William giving his backing to the SAS by becoming a patron of the unit. The Times, Russian oil tanker hit in the Med by drone strike. The Express, robot surgery revolution to save the NHS millions. The iPaper, Reeves, I can't rule out tax rises. Of course you can't. I can't rule out tax rises in 2026. Come on, call an election. You promised growth, you said no taxes on working people, you've done the opposite. The Daily Mail, Reeves ruins Christmas. Doesn't she just? Rachel Reeves. Let's bring in my panellists here. Journalist and commentator Christo Fufas and the US political commentator Jennifer Ewing. Hello, panel. Reeves ruins Christmas. Are we looking at Rachel Reeves, the Grinch? She's been accused of ruining Christmas for retailers, amongst other people, as her budget drives shoppers away from the high streets. Customers apparently scarred by the £30 billion tax raid are keeping their purse strings tight.
Yeah, I mean, I can see why. You know, it's one of your callers or, people who commented earlier from the audience said that in 56 years, she's never seen this country in such a depressed way.
Yeah.
And you can feel it. You can feel it in the wealthier places. You can obviously feel it in the less well-off places. But, of course, people are not going to be shopping when they don't know what the future holds. We have very high unemployment here now. People are being taxed more. She's saying she won't, rule out other taxes. So people are leaving, in droves, which, yeah, it's a pretty bad time.
That's the thing. You don't really want to spend any money, Christo, because you don't know when you're going to get slapped with a tax next. You don't know. I mean, you might get taxed for, I don't know, thinking a banana's yellow or something. You might get common sense tax. So it's just what this government is doing is, A, insane, but B, there is just no confidence in anything. Nobody's got confidence in how things go.
They're so thick. I mean, they're so thick because also they talk it down so much that they kill any prospect of any growth by saying, well, the next one's going to be terrible. They spend 3 months talking about how dreadful the budget's going to be in 3 months, so no one makes any plans for 3 months. Businesses don't hire anyone for 3 months. No one spends any money for 3 months. They get to the budget, then they say afterwards, after having lied about the reasons why those tax rises were needed, oh, the next one is going to be terrible again. And the whole cycle starts all over again. This will be the third time that they've done this. Meanwhile, unemployment, the highest it's been since COVID. The debt, the highest that we've had in history. Growth on the floor. Inflation still too high. Yes, we've had an interest rate cut, but that's only because the Bank of England are pulling every lever that they can at the moment to try and alleviate some of the horrific economic situation that we are in. People leaving the country up in their droves because no one wants to be around here. But also,
they say they were stitched up by the Tories.
Well, I agree. The Tories didn't do well at all, but you don't make a bad situation worse and lie about it when you're getting into power. Also, to run your country based on what your crazy backbenchers want you to do rather than what is in the interest of the country, it's almost
What are they doing
treason.
well? What are Labour doing well?
OK, I think that the relations between Keir Starmer and Trump, I think he's done quite well in that. No, but I think the way in which I thought that would be disastrous.
Let me you into a little secret. Trump is very diplomatic.
Yes,
that's all I'll say. Make of that what you will. He's very keen not to insult anybody. He'll say Europe is going to hell. Your country is going to hell. But then he will never identify a country or even a leader of the country, would you, Jennifer?
No, you're exactly right. I mean, he says, oh, Erdogan's a good guy. Oh, this is a good guy. This is a good woman. We're all friends. You know, this is my friend. He was very, polite Ursula von der Leyen, and they couldn't disagree more, So it's different behind closed doors. There's no way. I mean, Trump's two biggest issues, really, the United States versus the United Kingdom, are energy independence, right? This country doesn't seem to believe in it. And then, obviously, the free speech issues and the censorship. And the third, of course, is migration. I mean, those are fundamental differences.
I mean, firstly, I don't believe that Trump is always diplomatic, because you look at what happened with Zelensky. He certainly wasn't diplomatic then, or with journalists around him, but that's a little bit different to world leaders. But secondly, I do think do you not think that the meeting between Starmer and Trump went better than we thought it would?
Of course, because just as Ben said, he's very polite, face to face. The Zelensky thing was, I mean, that had been going on for months, and quite frankly, he's called the vice president basically B word, in his language.
I feel dirty that you've made me defend Starmer.
Sorry, just trying to get some balance there. I want to keep my job over Christmas. Right, coming up next on the Late Show Live, talks about President Trump. How about President Vance? How does that sound? It could be a reality in 2028. First, though, let's get your weather.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Quite a chilly start this morning with some frost in places, also some mist and fog, but through the course of the day, mostly dry with plenty of sunny spells. Now, we can't rule out some showers, particularly across southern coasts, also central and southern parts of Scotland may see 1 or 2 showers, but for most it should be dry, plenty of sunny spells as we reach towards the afternoon. Perhaps a little bit more cloud just starting to push into parts of the west, some spells of rain just edging into parts of Cornwall, also parts of East Anglia, South East England could see some more cloud and also some spots of rain, and quite blustery around western coast. That might just add on to the chill a little bit more, but for most feeling pleasant in the sunshine. Now, to finish off the day, still once again plenty of cloud across parts of Devon and Cornwall, some quite heavy bands of rain starting to push through here, also still very blustery around western coast to finish off the day. Also quite cloudy with some spells of rain across parts of Northern Ireland, but for many it should remain mostly dry, a mix of cloud and also some clearer skies. Now, through the course of this evening and overnight, there will be a mixture of some cloud and also some clearer skies to start, but eventually more clouds starting to push up from the south and southwest, and also some spells of rain too. Still quite blustery winds in the west, but by the time we reach the early hours of the mornings, winds mostly light. And with all the cloud and the breeze, that means temperatures will be staying around the middle single figures, but a few sheltered spots may just dip below freezing once more. Then as we head into Sunday, a much cloudier day and still with some spells of rain and drizzle at times. This could be heavy, particularly across southern parts of Wales and southwest England, but most areas will see patchy, intermittent rain, and some areas will just remain dry but still mostly cloudy. Now, temperatures will be holding up around about average for the time of year, but perhaps feeling a little bit chillier around eastern coasts.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, good morning. On the Late Show Live tonight, we've had our clearest indication yet who may be running for the Republicans in 2028, J.D. Vance. But can you guess who his vice president would have been? Hello, good morning. Hope you're well. Thank you for your company. On the Late Show Live tonight, breaking just now, Michael Jackson, Mick Jagger, Bill Clinton, they're all in the latest Epstein files released. 300,000 documents released to the world just moments ago. We'll be showing you the latest juicy pictures. Also tonight, war, what is it good for? America strikes Syria. In the last few moments, US military launched airstrikes against dozens of Islamic State terrorists in retaliation for attacks on US troops. But according to the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, he says it's not war. So we'll be updating you on that situation all throughout the night. Some extraordinary footage as well being released by the White House and the Department of War on the first stages of that attack. Also, somebody pardoned by President Trump after their involvement in January 6 joins me next. They've been the victim, they argue, of cancel culture. So despite being pardoned, a clean criminal record now, they're struggling to get jobs. They've been shunned by society. Is that right? I'm Ben Leo. This is The Late Show Live, and welcome to the second hour, where we've got all the stories you'll be talking about much later today. More debates and hallelujah, 0 ad breaks.
Politics is not the sisterhood of the traveling pants.
Politics is about principle, and if you are willing to sacrifice basic truth and simple principle in favor of emotional solidarity, you have betrayed your fundamental duty to the American people.
Good morning. Thank you for joining The Late Show Live. President Donald Trump has celebrated his first year of his second term of presidency.
Tonight, after 11 months, our border is secure, inflation is stopped, wages are up, prices are down, our nation is strong, America is respected, and our country is back.
Well, despite the next election being 3 years away, speculation around the 2028 race has already begun. Turning Point CEO Erica Kirk has endorsed none other than the Vice President J.D. Vance at this year's America Fest.
We're going to ensure that President Trump has Congress for all 4 years. We are going to get my husband's friend, J.D. Vance, elected for 48 in the most resounding way possible.
So I was taking a little peek at the US betting site Kalshi tonight, which correctly predicted the 2024 presidential election. I guess, to be honest, I mean, being fair, it wasn't that hard to predict the outcome of that. You had Joe Biden, who was asleep on a Delaware beach for half the time, and Kamala Harris, who couldn't string a sentence together. Anyway, Kalshi is forecasting J.D. Vance, the current vice president, to win the Republican nominee. With a massive 48% chance. And there are people now already calling Vance 48. That's his new nickname, as in the 48th president. So President Trump, of course, 45th and 47. Vance is now nicknamed 48. Meanwhile, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Vance's good mate, nonetheless, he trails behind on 10%. So Vance leading the way there by 48%. And if we take a look at all Kalshi's predictions for the overall 2028 presidential race, Kalshi predicts J.D. Vance has a 29% chance of winning the election. So what do you reckon? Will he make a good president, J.D. Vance? He's certainly got a great story behind him. His book, Hillbilly Elegy, is definitely worth a read. And I quite like him. Coming from a broken home, his mother was a heroin addict, a drug addict. J.D. Vance was shifted around from his grandmother's house back to his mum's and then moving state and moving towns. He's certainly a working-class guy, and he has ascended to the stars. Joining me now is political reporter at the Daily Wire, Cameron Arcand, who actually was on the campaign trail with former Vice President J.D. Vance last year. Cameron, great to see you. 48% chance, according to this betting site, for Vance to be the Republican nominee. I guess no surprise in that?
No, not at all. I mean, he really is a shoo-in for the nomination at this point. And I think this whole process and the endorsement from Erica goes to show that the Democrats are in a significantly worse spot compared with the Republicans. Earlier this week, DNC Chair Ken Martin said that they're getting rid of the autopsy and not releasing it on the 2024 election. And, you know, we are seeing basically open season on the Democrat side right now with Kamala Harris and Gavin Newsom and potentially some other contenders right now. And, you know, people could talk all day about whether, you know, Vance is the successor to MAGA and Trump's movement. But the real question people should be asking right now is, are Democrats really going to be in a position where they have a leader in 3 years from now? And what could that primary look like, too?
Well, the Democrats don't really have, I mean, I was going to say a bench. They don't really have a starting team, do they? I mean, you've got, who? Gavin Newsom, California, maybe Shapiro as well. Other than that, I mean, Mamdani can't run, can he, as a New York mayor?
No, he can. And I think that's the thing is you look at some of these positions and where these people are right now, there is a larger battle happening within the Democratic Party between the moderates and the socialists right now. And we could see the dynamic play out, too, where we're seeing candidates getting primaried. Catherine Clark in Massachusetts, the House Majority Whip, is getting primaried. She's one of the highest ranking members of the House, and she's facing a primary challenge right now. I think the Democrats think they could be having their own sort of Tea Party moment right now, but we're not really seeing any of that tangibly come about right now. But I think we'll learn more once these primaries actually take off.
Yeah, Mamdani really fueling that fire of the lurch to the left for the Democrats. You've got sort of centrist, left of centre governors and senators and so on being urged to go the way of Mamdani and just be even more radical. Let me go back to J.D. Vance, Cameron. Just tell our British viewers who aren't familiar with him, who is J.D. Vance? Will he continue the MAGA Will he keep the flame going? And why would he be a good Republican nominee above anybody else?
I mean, J.D. Vance has been probably one of the most interesting figures in his ascent. I mean, he was in the Senate, but before that, he was considered one of the most well-known authors here in the United States with his book, Hillbilly Elegy, that you mentioned, and really showing his journey kind of from the ground up and his upbringing and all of that. It became a Netflix movie that people can watch about that book that he wrote as well. But in terms of him as vice president, you've really seen him come into his own on this too, and really kind of grow into the position. And I think this is something that we'll really get a better feel about. Now, people can debate ideology and kind of talk about the little nitpick things here, but it's very clear that, especially with the Turning Point backing now, that's no small thing. At this point, they are a massive political apparatus at this stage, and a lot can happen in 3 years. But it seems like the president has indicated he would back JD at this point. Even Marco Rubio, who's been floated as another potential pick, has said he would do that. But I think in terms of Vance, he's in his early 40s. He would be much younger than the past two presidents. And it's certainly just fascinating to see that generational shift from, having the silent generation and boomers lead the country into potentially millennial leadership at that point.
Yeah, and I can't remember, I mean, look, I'm only 36, so I'm not that old, but I can't remember a vice president in the United States being so A, impactful, and B, so visible. President Trump he's responsible for a lot. He does, he was in Pennsylvania just a couple of days ago. I was going to go to his talk. He's very visible, he's very vocal, and as I said, impactful. People certainly remember who he is. Just lastly, Cameron, J.D. Vance has been very vocal about the UK on previous occasions. I think the speech in Munich he was banging on about, and Europe, our immigration policy and so on. What kind of president would he be to the UK? And secondly, you mentioned Turning Point, the foundation, or the organisation founded by Charlie Kirk, the late Charlie Kirk. Why is their backing of Vance so important?
So on your first question, I think it's important to note that Vance has not been afraid to pull punches when it comes to his criticism or praise when it comes to European policy. And I think that will definitely be a major factor when he does, if he does decide to run for president. And we're seeing that in action right now. So I think he will bring a degree of fresh accountability. And that's something that we've seen him do with, remember the famous meeting with Ukrainian President Zelensky. I think we could be seeing this again when he gave that speech to European leaders a few months back, and we can look further into that dynamic in terms of how the UK would that relationship would look, particularly, on matters like immigration and other issues as well, perhaps trade too. But to answer your second question on Turning Point, I was an Arizona guy for a few years before I came to DC. That's where Turning Point is headquartered. Not only are they the group, they're hosting America Fest right now, but they're also a massive political apparatus. They have Turning Point Action. They played a key role in the swing states in 2024. Now, if they continue to grow and honor Charlie's legacy, kind of what the plan is right now, I think we could see a world where, they are playing a role not only in the primary if Vance does face a primary challenger, but they also could be playing a huge role in the general election in swing states that we saw President Trump sweep in 2024. But whether or not those hold on, that is going to be a critical role once again in a few years from now.
Cameron Arcans, thank you very much, political reporter at the Daily Wire. Great to speak with you, and I'm sure we'll catch up soon. I'm joined now by my panel I was about to say Washington, D.C., but I'm in London. I am in London. Certainly wet enough for London. Journalist and commentator Christo Foufas and US political commentator Jennifer Ewing. Jennifer, it was also revealed today that Charlie Kirk would have been J.D. Vance's vice president should he have won the race. What do you make of that?
I mean, it does make sense. They were quite close, and they're very aligned. J.D. Vance, Vice President Vance, is truly America first. And one of the things I think that he could face going into the 2028 election is a challenger from the more sort of classical Republican side. The kind of uniparty side of the Republican Party. J.D. Vance has been very outspoken even before they won the election. He wants to end these forever wars. You know, he thought we should never have gotten involved, you know, in Ukraine in the way we have. So he is going to have people that are pushing back against that and have a vested interest in seeing things continue how they are in the uniparty. So Charlie Kirk was close, you know, very close to J.D. Vance, and
he was credited. Sorry to interrupt. He was credited, was he not, with getting Vance picked as VP? He had a word with Don.
Actually, it was Don Jr. Yes, exactly. That made sense. And, you know, Trump is a populist, and J.D. Vance is an actual populist, you know, cares about the people. So, you know, that all makes sense. I mean, the thing with Charlie is is definitely credited with getting that elusive sort of 18 to 29-year-old vote that usually Republicans do not get, especially with young men. Charlie was, you know, wildly impactful. So, you know, like 3 years, it's a long time. Whether Charlie would have actually been the vice presidential nominee with him or not. But
I mean, just looking at these pictures of Charlie Kirk, I still can't. Coming towards the end of this year, that for me is the big moment of this year: the assassination and slaying of Charlie Kirk. What a guy, a really sweet guy.
Absolutely.
A very sharp, intelligent guy. OK, if you didn't agree with his politics or some things he said, fine, but you can still respect him for his sharpness and his intellect and his political nous, getting that young vote across America to pretty much get Trump elected.
Well, and also the wonderful thing about Charlie Kirk is everyone's views were welcome. You know, he would famously go to some of these college campuses and he'd say, if you disagree with me, come to the front. That's who I want to talk to. I don't want to live in an echo chamber. I want to speak to the people who disagree with me. And, you know, J.D. Vance is very open towards that. And, you know, you alluded to some problems within the Republican Party, and a lot of that is over who's platforming who and who's doing interviews with whom. And Charlie was very open about talking to everyone.
And can I just say on that, I just think it's really important. You know, some people were critical of those after Charlie Kirk died that said, I didn't agree with him on everything, but he was, you know, brilliant at debating and everything. And everyone said, why do you need to caveat that? Because it's so important. It's so important that you say, do you know what? We can all have different opinions on things, but he had real class in the fact that he would be prepared, as you say, to debate absolutely anyone, and also to do so, I think, with great panache and from kindness. You know, he might not have agreed with people who were trans. He might not have agreed with their
But he never tried to belittle them or make them feel
Exactly, he really didn't. He didn't try to humiliate them. He just tried to get them to a position where they thought a bit differently, and sometimes he would think a bit differently, and I just think that's so important in debate.
I'm quite sure he would have been president, and you know that's why he killed him. That they killed him because he was so influential. I'm certain he would have been president.
I'll just say a quick thing about J.D. Vance as well. I don't know loads about him, but I love his story. I just love his story that he was just from such an impoverished background, but went into the military and then spent a lot of time. And I'd forgotten about this, actually, you know, trying to work to improve the lives of white working class people who have been left behind, which is a big story that we've seen in lots of places. And so I think from that perspective, I love a story from someone who's got to power with that background.
Yeah, and also, just one last word, Christo. Imagine this, and viewers at home, listeners at home, imagine it's 2029, Labour have gone. You wake up one morning, it's a spring morning, the birds are chirping, Easter's round the corner, you've bought the eggs, you put on the news, and it's President J.D. Vance, and according to the polls, Prime Minister Nigel Farage. Vance Farage, could you imagine how that would work?
It would be different. It would be pretty amazing if we had Vance Farage. I mean, firstly, you know, you could definitely say that the special relationship would be blooming.
Yeah, I was going to say, you think they'd get on.
Prospering. I mean, my God, I said that Starmer did quite well with Trump. It would make that look like a row. It would make that look like a conflict. I just want a low-tax government that is going to make people feel aspirational in this country again. That's all I want.
But I think Britain does need America right now. We've got a choice, Jennifer.
We need some American mindset. Sorry to interrupt, but we need some American mindset.
I said to Patrick earlier, Jennifer, last word on this before we move on. I said to Patrick earlier, he said, what's your biggest takeaway from America? I said, you can just do things. If you want to stop migration, illegal migration, you just kick people out who aren't meant to be there. You pull them over, you arrest them, you put them through an immigration court, and it's confirmed you're illegal. See you later. And then they go to the border and they close it. You just do it. You don't do focus groups. You don't go to lawyers. You don't go to Lord Hermo and all that absolute nonsense BS. You just do things.
Well, exactly, and it's, it comes down to regulation. The United States, one of the biggest things that President Trump wanted to do was deregulate things, like let people just get on with it. And all of this, if all of a sudden it's not working, fine, then you analyze it. It's a little more of ask for forgiveness, not permission. But you're right, considering that the United States is so much larger than the United Kingdom, it is amazing how much easier it is to get things done here.
Yeah.
Excuse me, in there.
And, the UK has a choice. We've had a choice, actually, since Brexit and since Labour have won power. We had a choice to either cosy back up to the EU, as we're doing today with the Erasmus scheme, £600 million of taxpayer money getting kids going back and forwards from Europe. OK, great, but what a waste of money. Or turn our attentions west to America. And as President Trump says, they are the hottest country in the world right now. Agree with that or not, but the figures, at least, on immigration, you don't agree with it?
No, I just can't believe that the UK can't look at what is going on in America, see what they're doing.
They're too arrogant.
Why is, not understand that maybe if we just took a little bit of a leaf out of their book, that things would be better here. And can I just say very quickly as well, because I know we've got to move on, but what you were saying about the fact that they do things, the government does things, that trickles down, I think, to the mindset of the American people, because it's just such a... you are applauded if you say in America, I want to go out and earn money and be a millionaire, but here they would spit on you for wanting to be a millionaire and say that you should be taxed more, and Zach Polanski and all of that nonsense.
Yeah, well, just one final word. I know we need to move on, but look at the comparison between Rachel Reeves, our Chancellor, and the Secretary of the Treasury, Scott Bessent. Scott Bessent is worth $600 million. He works at hedge funds, he led hedge funds, he's a businessman, he has experience. Rachel Reeves, his counterpart here, she was an economist at the Bank of England, and even that's disputed. Right, still ahead on The Late Show Live.
I just got here, and I feel like I missed the first part of the program. Hope I didn't miss anything meaningful.
He's being nicknamed Tucker Carlson. I'll explain why in a second. Infighting erupts amongst the Conservatives in the United States. We did just touch on it. We'll unpack that later tonight in the programme. But also on The Late Show Live, somebody pardoned by President Trump after their involvement in the January 6th riots joins me next. They have been cancelled from everyday life in America despite being pardoned. More on that in just a tick on The Late Show Live. Right, let's do this. Joining me now is a woman who's campaigning on behalf of those pardoned by President Trump over January the 6th. So despite being given the relief, their hardship still goes on. Mentally, as well as trying to move on with their lives, but society as well isn't allowing them to, because first things first, they can't get jobs. Well, to tell me more, Sarah McCabe, the co-founder and chief operating officer of Stand in the Gap Foundation, joins me now. Sarah, great to see you. President Trump, of course, has pardoned dozens and dozens of January 6ers, but it's not the end of the story, right? What's going on?
Yes, that is correct. Thank you so much for having me on and for shedding light on this, because many, not only Americans, but the world thinks that when President Trump pardoned these individuals January 20th this year, they just walked back into the life that they had. And that is just simply not the truth. The majority of them spent 4+ years in solitary confinement. They didn't see their families for over 2 years. They did not give them haircuts, nail clippers, access to their discovery. When they went into court, it was a kangaroo court. It was something you have never seen in America. And President Trump did either commute or pardon every single individual, but the punishment continues, because even though they have been pardoned, their record still shows up because they were not exonerated. So these individuals try to go get jobs and their record still pulls up. At the bottom, it does say pardoned, but then they already have that preconceived notion that they were involved in January 6th. You search their name online, all kinds of articles pop up and the media was against them. And so there is a lot of work that has to be done here in America to right this wrong. It was one of the biggest coups, if not the biggest coup in American history.
So, OK, so that explains things. So it says on their record, in charged whatever with January the 6th, but they were pardoned, but the employers will still sit. Sarah, there will be people watching this in America and Great Britain who will say, predictably, yeah, but this was an attack on democracy and loads of people died. I mean, the only person who died was Ashley Babbitt, who's she was shot by the cops. This was an attack on democracy. They should be punished, blah, blah, blah. What's your response to that?
So this was a complete setup by our own government. If you go and look at the numbers, there's a reason they didn't release the 44,000 hours of evidence to the general public, because if they did, they would realize that it was the police that shot into a peaceful crowd. It was the police that beat protesters. It was the police that shot individuals. In fact, 4 American citizens died that day. Ashley Babbitt was shot by a Capitol police officer, Michael Byrd, who still to this day walks free, was not charged with murder, even though she was shot on live TV. Roseanne Boyland was crushed in the tunnel and wasn't given aid by the Metropolitan police officers. In fact, she was beaten over the head 3 times by Metropolitan police officer Lila Morris. Again, Lila Morris was not investigated nor charged with attempted murder. And then 2 individuals, Kevin Greason and Benjamin Phillips, those individuals supposedly died of natural causes, but there's been no investigation into their death. Yet the media said 5 officers died that day. That is not true. 1 officer died the following day due to natural causes. What we have heard is that the people in his chain of command knew that he had a stroke, but decided to send him home instead of getting medical attention. And it's the biggest coup in American history. Nancy Pelosi is on tape saying she should have had the National Guard there and that she takes responsibility. You saw the sham show in July of 2021, where they had select people in the government to do research, to show the American people what happened on January 6th, but they didn't bring in one January 6th defendant to show them what they had done. They locked them away in solitary confinement in a gulag in their own nation's capital.
The special counsel report, though, I mean, let me get your take on this. There was apparently, before Trump became president, there was enough evidence, according to the special counsel, that he would have been convicted criminally for January the 6th.
Yeah, no, that is also fake news. They just tried to push this narrative. They called every single January 6th defendant an insurrectionist. None of them were charged with insurrection. They called every single one of them terrorist. None of them were charged with terrorism. In fact, Interpol, the FBI, put them on domestic terrorist watch list for 4 years. They were on Quad S. They couldn't fly. Quiet Skies. They were canceled by companies like Bank of America and American Express, Airbnb, all of before they were even tried. I mean, you're talking about everyday American citizen, law enforcement officers. 72% of January 6 defendants were either veterans or first responders, and the government used the same training that they gave them and used it against them in the court of law to literally throw the book at them and try to put them away for decades. And really what it wasn't necessarily just about those 1,600 January 6 defendants. It was to instill fear into the American people, because never in history have Americans showed up at the government's doorstep and said, hey, we have a question. They got scared. They didn't know what to do. They had this coup on their hands. They truly do have blood on their hands, and there needs to be justice for these individuals.
January 6th, of course, was all about President Trump's claims that the 2020 election was rigged. And he said, I think it was yesterday or the day before, he has some, how did he describe it? Some bombshell evidence that he says the public will soon get that that election was rigged. I do wonder where 20 million votes went next time round. From the Dems, but we'll see. Sarah, just last word to you on the January the 6th trying to get jobs. Is there any kind of support for them? Is there a charity that can support them whilst they look for jobs? And also, is it not simply just against the law? Is it not discrimination? Have you not got some sort of anti-discrimination laws in the US?
Yes, you would think it's just very hard to prove something like that when you don't have evidence, when it's just somebody in HR that says, oh, I don't politically agree with you. They didn't say their beliefs. They just deny their applications. Yes, there is. We run a nonprofit called Stand in the Gap. It's 501c3, where we help January 6 defendants rebuild their lives from scratch. They lost their homes. They lost their cars. They can't get jobs. Their families fell apart. They got divorced. They were away for 4 years. And mind you, in 2020, we had the Summer of Love, where BLM and Antifa burnt cities down, federal buildings, killed people, and none of them were charged. Yet you showed up to the Capitol on January 6, 2021, and they threw you into solitary confinement for 4 years and tried to put you away for decades.
Yeah, Sarah McCabe, great speaking with you. Thank you so much, and hopefully we catch up soon. That's Sarah McCabe, co-founder and Chief Operating Officer of the Stand in the Gap Foundation. My panel are back with me, Christo Fufas and Jennifer Ewing. Welcome back. You were nodding in agreement with everything she's... There will be, though, Jennifer, people watching this tonight saying, What are you talking about, Ben and Sarah? That January 6th was awful. It was an attack on democracy. Police officers were beaten to a pulp. It was a disgrace.
Sure, it would. You know, there were a lot of disgraceful things that went on during that day, but there's also been, and listening to her was just heartbreaking because it's, you know, you can see how many people's lives were ruined by this. They were definitely overpunished. Solitary confinement is insane. But this narrative about January 6th has taken on a life of its own, and nobody's been able to question it. We have here in this country, we know now that the BBC, you know, cut and pasted certain parts of the story to make it look different. So I'm sure people who are looking for a job, an HR person's going to go, oh, January 6th, and think they know the story, when actually there's so much still to come out. The story, Sarah alluded to a lot of it. We've got the pipe bombers, we've got the FBI involvement, we've got the people that actually let the people come in through the door, we've got Nancy Pelosi's comments. So I think there's a lot more to come out about this, and I just hope those people that were overpunished can find gainful employment and get their families and their lives back. And that is not excusing anybody that abused or hurt police officers. But this is a very complex story, and we have been told a simple version of it that nobody is allowed to question.
And it's a wider issue as well, that if you are... You know, I don't know to what extent people who have made, you know, who were there might have made mistakes and that you alluded to, but that you're not allowed to make a mistake on the right. I really don't believe. I believe that there is way more forgiveness if the people, if you know, you could have someone who is on the left and someone on the right both do exactly the same thing. Someone on the left that apologises gets way more forgiveness than someone on the right.
Sarah just mentioned it. Look at the BLM riots, burning down cities.
Absolutely.
You know,
exactly an example. When you're seen as being on the I don't know, correct in inverted commas side of something, and you get more leeway to be able to
and those were government buildings. You know, as Sarah just said. You know, the Summer of Love, all those BLM riots that were allowed to go on. I mean, they were burning down government buildings. You know, that was actual real violence. I mean, that was insane, and so many people got cut up unnecessarily during that time.
Keir Starmer took the knee with Angela Rayner.
Well, just on that also happens between the left and the right. If you look at issues on the left, like BLM, or like, you know, arguably we have knife crime, which is a massive issue in this country, which is probably, you know, young black men in general, that those on the left will say, we've got to analyse, we can't just punish, you can't arrest your way out of it, we've got to analyse how people got here. Look at terrorism, we've got to analyse how people got here. And it's good to do that, it's good to analyse as well as punish. If it's someone on the right, no, you just punish. When it came to the riots over the summer, you just punish. You don't analyse why these people are disillusioned like you do on the subjects on the left. We just punish.
You're
and that's
exactly
the double standard.
Jennifer, last word to you. People complain in the UK about Ofcom and the need that GB News needs to have balance and so on, and opposing views and good, healthy discussion. People complain about it. I mean, I complain about it. You know, I got to America. I turned on the television. I was watching all sorts of news. Fox News, CNN and MSNBC came on. And they had 5 panellists all sat there, and they were talking about January the 6th. And one of them said, January the 6th was worse than Pearl Harbor. And then they all nodded. All 5 of them nodded. Somebody else then said, I think it was worse than 9/11. And they all nodded. Everybody on that panel, 5 of them, in agreement. No pushback, no nothing.
No, I mean...
talking about the portrayal of the story, they're just insane.
You're exactly right. And it's... a lot of people live in an echo chamber, and what's happened, and we saw, I think that's how you end up with Brexit. That's how you end up with President Trump, because people on the left shame and do not want to hear from their friends and colleagues and neighbours on the right, whereas I think we, and you, Chris, you alluded to this a second ago, we a little bit... I have so many friends that have, you know, far more left-leaning views than I do, and I'm always curious, oh, why do you think that, right? How did you come to that belief? And, you know, sometimes I learn something and I change my mind, but I don't think the grace is necessarily shown on the other side, and you do see it on those panels a lot.
Yeah, it makes me appreciate Ofcom, actually. The balance, just having a nice, healthy debate. I know people moan about it, but...
Well, I don't understand the criticism about that, because every single show... I mean, this is a bit different, but even you are playing devil's advocate. Like, every show I've ever been on GB News, there's been someone from the left on there. Every single one. Every single one. Or if there isn't, then the presenter, which you just did, said, well, look, there are going to be some people watching who might think, and you take that opposing
But also,
view.
whether you have to do that or not, I am of the opinion I want to.
Of course.
I want to debate people. Maybe I'll learn something. Maybe they'll learn something. I don't want to just sit in an echo chamber for 2 hours and nod my head in agreement.
GB News, I think it was 2.5 years ago, had Greg Swenson, who's chairman of Republicans Overseas UK, and myself sitting right here, I believe it was on a Sunday afternoon with Michael Portillo, and they wanted to hear the two different sides of opinion in the Republican Party on the Ukraine war, right?
Yeah.
And so Michael Portillo said, Jennifer, what do you think? And I, stated my case, and then Greg, sat across from me, and he and I are very good friends, agree on a lot, but we disagreed on this. And, GB News was interested. Okay, let's dive into the minutiae of, even within the same party, these diverging opinions and views. And it was great.
Yeah, and that's why we're doing so well. The UK's #1 news channel for the past 5 or 6 months running. Thank you to you viewers for that. Appreciate it. Right, still ahead on The Late Show Live.
How to discern those attempting to speak truth from frauds and grifters.
It's all been kicking off in Arizona at this so-called America Fest. It's a big conservative conference in the Midwest. That was commentator Ben Shapiro, who wasn't happy about the kind of split in the conservative right. Also, Tucker Carlson has been accused of taking money from Qatar, and they're nicknaming him Tucker Carlson. We'll have all the details in just a sec.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Quite a chilly start this morning with some frost in places, also some mist and fog, but through the course of the day, mostly dry with plenty of sunny spells. Now, we can't rule out some showers, particularly across southern coasts, also central and southern parts of Scotland may see 1 or 2 showers, but for most it should be dry, plenty of sunny spells as we reach towards the afternoon. Perhaps a little bit more cloud just starting to push into parts of the west, some spells of rain just edging into parts of Cornwall, also parts of East Anglia, South East England could see some more cloud and also some spots of rain, and quite blustery around western coast. That might just add on to the chill a little bit more, but for most feeling pleasant in the sunshine. Now, to finish off the day, still once again plenty of cloud across parts of Devon and Cornwall, some quite heavy bands of rain starting to push through here, also still very blustery around western coast to finish off the day. Also quite cloudy with some spells of rain across parts of Northern Ireland, but for many it should remain mostly dry, a mix of cloud and also some clearer skies. Now, through the course of this evening and overnight, there will be a mixture of some cloud and also some clearer skies to start, but eventually more clouds starting to push up from the south and southwest, and also some spells of rain too. Still quite blustery winds in the west, but by the time we reach the early hours of the mornings, winds mostly light. And with all the cloud and the breeze, that means temperatures will be staying around the middle single figures, but a few sheltered spots may just dip below freezing once more. Then as we head into Sunday, a much cloudier day and still with some spells of rain and drizzle at times. This could be heavy, particularly across southern parts of Wales and southwest England, but most areas will see patchy, intermittent rain, and some areas will just remain dry but still mostly cloudy. Now, temperatures will be holding up around about average for the time of year, but perhaps feeling a little bit chillier around eastern coasts.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Welcome back to The Late Show Live. I'm Ben Leo, and a civil war has erupted amongst American conservatives at Turning Point USA's America Fest conference. Just as a reminder, America Fest by Turning Point. Okay, Turning Point was founded by Charlie Kirk, the late Charlie Kirk, and they've got this massive conference in Arizona. All the big names are there: J.D. Vance, Ben Shapiro, Tucker Carlson. Ben Shapiro, talking of him, he held nothing back. Take a look.
Even if it were true that other public figures were our best friends, our very best friends, that does not relieve us of our duty to speak out of principle and not to cover up evil or shy away from addressing it out of friendship. So no, Tucker Carlson, it is not an excuse to go silent on Candace's targeting of TPUSA. Or to mirror her kinds of questioning because you love Candace personally. It means that if we offer a guest for your viewing, we owe it to you to ask the kinds of questions that actually get at the truth. If we agree with the guest, that's fine, but we should own it. So, for example, if you host a Hitler apologist, Nazi-loving, anti-American piece of refuse like Nick Fuentes, you know, the Nick Fuentes who said that the Vice President of the United States is a, quote, fat gay race traitor married to a... The person who said that Charlie Kirk was a, quote, idiot. The person who said, and pardon my language here, it's his quote, that he, quote, took Turning Point USA and it, and that's why it's filled with groypers. If you have that person on your show and you proceed to glaze him, you ought to own it. There is a reason that Charlie Kirk despised Nick Fuentes, and indeed even chided Dinesh D'Souza for debating him. He knew that Nick Fuentes is an evil troll, and that building him up is an act of moral imbecility. And that is precisely what Tucker Carlson did. He built Nick Fuentes up, and he ought to take responsibility for that.
So there's obviously a very clear split in the American right, the Conservatives. You've got Tucker Carlson, Ben Shapiro, and then that absolute nutjob, Nick Fuentes, who I just think is a complete loser. I mean, he's a 30-year-old virgin, by his own admission. And this was Tucker Carlson's response to Ben Shapiro. Let's take a look at Tucker.
I just got here, and I feel like I missed the first part of the program. I hope I didn't miss anything meaningful. But I just want to say, I don't think I did. No, I'm just kidding. I watched it. I laughed. That kind of bitter, sardonic laugh that emerges from you when, like, Upside Down World arrives. When your dog starts doing your taxes, and you're like, wait, it's not supposed to work this way. To hear calls for, like, deplatforming and denouncing people at a Charlie Kirk event, I'm like, what? This is hilarious. Charlie stood firm in his often stated and deeply held belief that people should be able to debate, and that if you have something valid to say, if you're telling the truth, you ought to be able to explain it calmly and in detail to people who don't agree with you, and that you shouldn't immediately resort to shut up racist.
All right, Jennifer Ewing, what's going on? The American right is split like a wooden plank that's been boshed over, I don't know, some sharp object.
Sure. So I know way too much about this because I've been paying attention to it for a long time, and it has been a long time coming. I respect both Ben Shapiro and Tucker Carlson. However, Tucker Carlson is correct on this. What is happening in the right is it's a very slippery slope. They're starting to say, if you have this person on your show and somebody else doesn't condemn you for it, then, you know, that's not good. I mean, we just spent the last few years in the lead up to the 2024 election criticizing the left for cancel culture and deplatforming people and all this sort of thing. And now the right is doing it because they don't like what Tucker's saying about this, or what Candace is saying about this, or what Megyn Kelly's not denouncing somebody. I mean, if somebody like Nick Fuentes comes across as a lunatic, you know, then let him speak and the market will decide. You know, it's similar to the way when people were trying to, you know, block Andrew Tate because they thought it would be dangerous for young boys. In the end, Andrew Tate just showed him people who he was, and he kind of went away. We don't hear about him as much anymore, other than, say, the last week. But no, I mean, free speech absolutism. If people see Nick Fuentes as a lunatic, then they'll stop listening to him. But you cannot have Ben Shapiro and people on the right saying, you can talk about all of this except for this subject.
Yeah, well, they call it here, Christo, the woke right.
Oh,
have you heard that? The woke right.
Heard that before, but I just returned to being more Charlie Kirk.
Yeah.
You know, just hear people out, and if they are absolutely foolish and moronic, and have some of these Fuentes kind of views that are extreme, then expose them, and you know, let them hang themselves and point out how ridiculous they are, and have a debate about it, and let people
exactly.
Otherwise, you know, because otherwise the problem is that the views then go underground. And then you end up with the extremes and the fringes that we're seeing people at the moment, because the views don't go away.
No,
they just end up becoming way more extreme. And actually, we've seen so much of that in this country. You know, not to the level that's happening with what we were just debating, but you know, people being concerned about immigration or being called racists. Well, those views didn't go away. They just ended up going to the fringe.
Exactly.
So Tucker Carlson's been getting slack because he platforms Nick Fuentes, who's very, very right-wing. Is the nickname Tucker Carlson fair? Is he being paid by Qatar?
Well, no, he's not, Ben, but he did actually say, I mean, you know, being paid by Qatar is the new you're a Nazi or you're a racist. It gets bandied about all of the time unnecessarily. A lot of people just were in that Middle East conference in Qatar. Tucker was very complimentary. He said he's buying property there. A lot of people on the left, right, everyone was there. A lot of business going on there, and the United Kingdom could learn from that, actually.
OK, right, let's move on. US President Donald Trump has signed an order recommending the loosening of federal regulations on marijuana, cannabis, weed. Let's take a look.
We'll be signing an executive order to reschedule marijuana from a Schedule 1 to a Schedule 3 controlled substance with legitimate medical uses. We have people begging for me to do this, people that are in great pain. For decades, this action has been requested by American patients suffering from extreme pain, incurable diseases, aggressive cancers, seizure disorders, neurological problems, and more, including numerous veterans with service-related injuries. And I want to emphasize that the order I am about to sign is not the legalization, or it doesn't legalize marijuana in any way, shape, or form, and in no way sanctions its use as a recreational drug. It has nothing to do with it.
I mean, Jennifer, it's pretty much legal anyway. In DC, it stinks everywhere. Every street corner just hoofs of marijuana.
Yeah, I mean, look, I grew up in California where people grew it in their backyards. It was all very natural. The worst thing that would happen is you would eat too many Doritos and laugh at Beavis and Butthead. But I think the marijuana today is a lot stronger. But what's interesting is when it was becoming legalized in California is who are the people that were against it? And there are three major groups. One was alcohol, beverage, and tobacco. Obviously, you're not going to buy your expensive liquor if you can have weed. Number two is big pharma, right? They're not going to sell as many painkillers, as many, antidepressants if there's legalized marijuana. And the last one, shockingly and most sinisterly, was the California Prison Guard Union, because it was 3 strikes, you're out. So this was coming for a long time. I mean, I think it's very easy to access marijuana in America, even in states where it's not legal. So we'll see how this turns out. Hopefully it stays for medical purposes only. I think that's naive, though.
Yeah, it is everywhere. Gummies, cakes, all sorts of stuff going on in America. Have you ever smoked marijuana, Christo?
I can't believe you're asking me that question.
In your university days? Did you inhale?
I used to smoke weed.
You did?
Yeah, I did. And
how long ago?
I haven't. Well, God, I mean, I used to regularly smoke it probably over 20 years ago, but I haven't had any marijuana in, God, over probably knocking on a decade. But when I used to regularly smoke it, I used to think that it was absolutely great till I stopped, and then I realised what it was taking away from me.
Yeah, I've had loads of friends, even in high school, when we were kids, some friends would be smoking copious amounts of cannabis.
Yeah.
They'd be greening out in the toilets, having whitey.
Oh, see,
They grew up to be the laziest. They were just gone. It really affected their brains. No motivation. They just lost themselves, actually. I'm happy to say that.
And I used to find that... Well, I always had a 7 o'clock rule. I never had one before 7 p.m. I never understood people...
You say 7 a.m.
Who could have one...
You weren't awake and bake?
Up. Yeah, I could never understand those people. But I used to find that then the next day was harder and I'd get more frustrated and I'd be a bit slower, which meant I really needed it by 7 p.m. and it became self-fulfilling.
But that said, President Trump's talking about particularly the medicinal uses, and there's been shown great studies, multiple sclerosis, MS, stopping seizures of people with epilepsy,
cancer pain
as well, pure THC
PTSD,
oil.
Very effective.
Absolutely be regulated but available without a doubt.
Yeah.
Well, the UK does. I think Theresa May's husband runs one of the UK's largest legal cannabis grow sites in the UK, medicinal cannabis. What do they call that spray for MS? Begins with S. Is it Sativex or something? So we do have it here. Right, let's move on. This is a great story. This amazing story, and we've got a clip as well. Bondi beach hero Ahmed Al-Ahmed, the guy infamously, or famously rather, who tackled the terrorist to the ground, got the gun, arguably should have finished the job, but maybe there's multiple reasons that he didn't know how to handle the gun for some reason. you need to cock the gun
You
back.
need- yeah.
Anyway, long story short, he's in
You and your
hospital.
gun knowledge.
My gun knowledge.
Yeah.
The story is he's been gifted £1.24 million, more than £1 million from well-wishers and people donating money off the back of that clip that went viral. Let's take a look.
Ahmed,
how are you?
it's a pleasure to meet you.
Good to see you, my friend.
Can I give you a hug?
Of course, my friend.
Love you. Thank you for everything. Being an absolute hero. I came here with news of people around the world. 43,000 people.
Thank you very much.
They raised you $2.5 million.
I deserve it.
Every penny.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
If you could say one thing to the people that donated, what would you tell them?
Stand to each other, all a human being, and put everything back behind the back, and keep going to save life. Save life. When I do save the people, I do it from the heart.
Wow, more than £1 million for your efforts. I mean, I'm sure he's, after what he's been through and seen the people killed, he's probably not really top of his mind, but it's nice of people to dig deep.
It absolutely is. And you know what? If it encourages more people, sometimes women, but usually men, to stand up when they see something's going horrifically wrong. You'll remember the story in the US with Daniel Penny and the subway where he was sticking up for somebody and he ended up getting arrested. Now he's out and he has a great job, I happen to know, in California. But we need more of these heroes. We need people to man up, for lack of a better word, and stand up. And if money can help motivate people rather than being fearful that they're going to be arrested themselves, then that's great.
I just think it's one of the bravest things I've ever seen in my life, and I'd love to think I would be that person. I don't know if I would.
Can I be really controversial here?
Sure.
Does he deserve the stick he's been getting for not pulling the trigger?
No, because I think that going back to the point I was making earlier, firstly, he might not have known how to operate the gun, but secondly, there were police there, and if I was holding a gun in that situation and had shot someone, remember, I think there was reports straight at the time that there was an extra gunman, a third gunman. Well, that was probably because someone saw him holding the gun. He could have ended up shot himself. So you'd have to be very careful about pulling the trigger yourself, because you could end up getting shot.
Well, and I think that one of the shooters had actually just shot it, and this Ahmed probably was not familiar with that sophisticated of a gun, and there wasn't time to do it again. It wasn't just a handgun. And, by the way, if guns were still legal in Australia, perhaps he would have known how to do that, right?
So it's a bolt-action rifle. So it's a bolt-action rifle, basically a bolt-action. You need to cock it back after every shot. So the terrorist had just taken a shot. That's when Ahmed dived at him, picked it up. Maybe he did try and squeeze the trigger. I'd love to know. In the coming days.
I think you can see in the footage he sort of, because he has it up and then he puts it down and then he sort of has it up again.
Maybe he squeezed the trigger and nothing happened.
Yes.
That's what.
Because it wasn't.
Because also with the gun sort of being back up, having watched it, you'd worry that then the guy would try and wrestle it out of his hand again as well. So I think that then he just sort of went and put it down. So
I asked you last week. You wouldn't have killed the guy, would you? The terrorist?
No, I don't think you did ask me that, guy. But if I'd had the gun, I would have killed him if I'd known how to use that gun.
If you'd been smoking your marijuana.
What I would have done, what I would have done if I could have done is I'd have shot him in the kneecaps.
That's not really. That's kind of in the movies kind of thing.
No, I would have shot him probably not in the head, but somewhere on his body if I could.
There you go.
Jennifer,
that's what I would have.
Yeah, I mean, I would have shot him, of course, to stop him.
Yeah.
Yeah, without a doubt. The other thing I was looking when I watched the footage is I wanted to see him, even if I couldn't use the gun, I'd beat him with the gun, do something. But you're in the moment. I don't even know whether I would have been that brave. I don't even know whether I would have been that brave.
Getting really stressed out about this. You might need to smoke some marijuana, calm down, and then you can make a proper decision.
It's illegal in this country. It's Class B. Don't do that. Go to America if you want to do that. Right, one more story, and this is a bombshell story, actually. EU students owe Britain more than £5 billion in unpaid loans. That's according to official figures. The total outstanding amount lent to those studying at UK universities has increased from 0.7 billion in 2013-2014 to just under 6 billion last year. That's according to data from the Student Loans Company. So what the hell's going on there? But the disclosure sparks fears that the UK taxpayer could have to give up even more cash on top of the 8.7 billion bill the UK faces for rejoining the Erasmus programme. So, Christo, what's going on there? So, 0.7 billion was owed by students, EU students, to the taxpayer in 2013, and it's now 6 billion.
I don't understand how...
Scammed.
Because we're all, like, OK, whether we're in the EU or not, we're all supposed to be sort of, you know, the world is supposed to be much smaller than it was, and we're all supposed to be able to contact each other and get to each other very easily and all of these sorts of things. I mean, for goodness sake, you can get a speeding ticket in France and they'll find you here in the UK. So I don't understand how they're able to go back owing all this money and no one's thinking... you know, it's like when they go to when people get treated at the NHS and they're supposed to be billed and just no one bothers. No one bothers doing it.
Yeah.
So how... That is a bigger scandal than Erasmus, and Erasmus is a scandal with the amount that's costing. This is worse.
I think you're right. I think it's probably just a case of managed decline and nobody can be bothered to check. Maybe they haven't got the staff in whatever department to chase these.
But that's just easy money. It's just money that is sat there that we are owed.
6 billion quid.
Yeah, but I was with somebody who has a 20-something-year-old daughter last night for dinner, and she was explaining to me she's got 20+ grand of student loans. She's got a job now. She's working it off. But, like, if I was her, you know, or her parents who had paid, you know, for college, I'd be furious that now, because of my taxpayer dollars, I'm also paying for other kids in the EU who have defaulted on their student loans.
It's absolute.
GBnews.com/, you'll say, Lynn, you've said, Ben, going back to the Ahmed story in Bondi Beach, you said, Ben, maybe he didn't shoot the guy because he's not a murderer in caps. I mean, he wouldn't be a murderer. He'd be stopping a terrorist attack.
Self-defense.
And even the Bible will say, it says, thou shalt not...
it's self-defense.
Thou shalt not kill, but it's basically, it's justified. You're stopping a terrorist attack. Right, one more very quick story. Researchers have found that people aren't making their builders cups of tea anymore, even when they're working outdoors for long periods in grim weather. So apparently 42% of us, not me, don't bother offering cuppers. Men and women can be equally inconsiderate, with 41% of men failing to offer a brew, along with 42% of women. And people from Scotland, London and Wales are the meanest of all, with 54% of Londoners, 53% of Scots and 44% of Welsh people failing to offer their builder a cuppa. Christo?
No, I would give them, when I was getting my house done up, they would get a coffee, but because it was a posh machine, they'd get one when they'd been working for a couple of hours. They wouldn't get one as soon as they arrived. They'd get one when they'd done some work.
Yeah, I mean, I don't do tea because I'm American, but the second somebody walks in my house, last week a plumber came, I offer them, would you like coffee, would you like water? If it's after 5 o'clock, can I pour you a drink? You know, a cocktail. But no, absolutely. Anybody that comes in your house for any reason, I think you offer them a coffee.
But this isn't a friend. This is someone who is there.
It's still being polite. Yeah, but I'm a hostess and they're in my house to, I don't know, fix a pipe or something.
OK, I've got one caveat. If it's their first visit and they're coming to, like, fix something, fine. But this is someone who was working in my house for, like, 18 months. You don't get a coffee the moment you arrive every single day.
I don't know.
Do some work.
How are you, Scrooge?
No.
Watching too much Scrooge.
You are having your house done up in an extensive refurbishment at the moment. How would you like it for the first hour that they were there? They were drinking coffee.
My wife got ticked off from the gaffer on the site at my house the other day for taking them beers. Apparently, the boys can't get tipsy doing the beers.
I don't let them. By the way, I don't let them use my loo either. They have a portaloo outside.
Christo, thank you for tonight. Jennifer, thank you for tonight.
Nice to see you.
And of course, biggest thank yous to the viewers back home. I'll see you tomorrow night in the UK from midnight. For now, sweet dreams, and I'll see you tomorrow. Goodbye.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Quite a chilly start this morning with some frost in places, also some mist and fog, but through the course of the day, mostly dry with plenty of sunny spells. Now, we can't rule out some showers, particularly across southern coasts, also central and southern parts of Scotland may see 1 or 2 showers, but for most it should be dry, plenty of sunny spells as we reach towards the afternoon. Perhaps a little bit more cloud just starting to push into parts of the west, some spells of rain just edging into parts of Cornwall, also parts of East Anglia, southeast England could see some more cloud and also some spots of rain, and quite blustery around western coast. That might just add on to the chill a little bit more, but for most, feeling pleasant in the sunshine. Now, to finish off the day, still once again plenty of cloud across parts of Devon and Cornwall. Some quite heavy bands of rain starting to push through here. Also still very blustery around western coast to finish off the day. Also quite cloudy with some spells of rain across parts of Northern Ireland. But for many it should remain mostly dry, a mix of cloud and also some clearer skies. Now, through the course of this evening and overnight, there will be a mixture of some cloud and also some clearer skies to start, but eventually more clouds starting to push up from the south and southwest, and also some spells of rain too. Still quite blustery winds in the west, but by the time we reach the early hours of the mornings, winds mostly light. And with all the cloud and the breeze, that means temperatures will be staying around the middle single figures, but a few sheltered spots may just dip below freezing once more. Then as we head into Sunday, a much cloudier day and still with some spells of rain and drizzle at times. This could be heavy, particularly across southern parts of Wales and southwest England, but most areas will see patchy, intermittent rain, and some areas will just remain dry but still mostly cloudy. Now, temperatures will be holding up around about average for the time of year, but perhaps feeling a little bit chillier around eastern coasts.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
I'm Andrew Pearce. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock, only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News, lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to Lee Anderson's Real World. Tonight on the show we have former Conservative MP Jane Stevenson She'll be going head-to-head with political commentator Kai Wilshaw. We'll be speaking to Charlotte Evans in Real World, Real People. And on Last Orders, we have Paul Remner, fitness model. But first, let's go for the news.
Good evening. The top stories this hour. David Walliams has been dropped by publisher HarperCollins amid allegations of inappropriate behaviour. The decision follows a Daily Telegraph investigation into claims that the children's author had harassed junior women during his time working with the company. According to the Telegraph, a female employee who raised concerns about Walliams' alleged conduct later left HarperCollins after reaching a settlement, which included a 5-figure payment. The publisher reportedly launched an internal inquiry in 2023 after a complaint was made interviewing multiple staff members who had professional contact with the author. A spokesman for HarperCollins told The Telegraph, after careful consideration and under the leadership of its new CEO, HarperCollins UK has decided not to publish any new titles by David Walliams. The author is aware of this decision. They go on to say, HarperCollins takes employee well-being extremely seriously and has processes in place for reporting and investigating concerns. To respect the privacy of individuals, we do not comment on internal matters. Well, GB News has approached Mr. Walliams for comment. In other news, East and West Sussex County Councils have confirmed they will request a postponement to local elections next year, while 2 other counties have said they will not ask for a delay. It's after the government offered over 60 councils the chance to push back elections as part of reorganising local government. The Shadow Housing Secretary has criticised the Labour government as 10 million voters face having their local elections delayed until 2027. Meanwhile, the government have been accused of colluding with the Conservatives to prevent Reform UK from getting into power, but James cleverly told GB News the Conservatives are completely against it.
Absolutely should not be cancelling elections. What we've seen is the Labour government, both arrogant and naive and cocky, thinking they can completely restructure English local government all in one go. And of course, they've bitten off far too much. And what we now see in the opinion polls is that they are almost certainly going to have a really, really difficult night in those elections. And they've used their ineptitude as an excuse to hide from the voters. And it stinks, and we are completely against it.
In other news, a former Strictly contestant Thomas Skinner is suing the BBC, claiming it rigged voting to get him off the show. The ex-Apprentice star says he has proof that the broadcaster downplayed his public support because of negative publicity. The 34-year-old was the first of 14 celebrities to be ousted in week 2 of the current series. Thomas is also boycotting tomorrow's final, in which he was due to return to take part in the class of 2025 dance. A BBC spokesperson told The Sun, Strictly Come Dancing's public vote is robust and independently overseen and verified to ensure complete accuracy. And finally, in sport, YouTuber Jake Paul takes on Olympic and former heavyweight boxing champion Anthony Joshua in a few hours' time in a highly anticipated and widely criticised bout in Miami. Boxing promoter Frank Warren spoke to GB News ahead of the fight.
Money, that's why they're doing it. From AJ's perspective, he's getting a massive purse to fight a guy who's had 12 fights, fought nobody of any of significance, of a young fighter. He's not, take out a 58-year-old Mike Tyson. And, Jake's stepping up to the plate. He's the one who's stepping up. He's had 12 fights, no amateur experience. He's got, as I say, no names on his resume. Two-time world champion, big puncher, natural heavyweight against a guy who's heaviest he's fought has been cruiserweight, which is a weight below Olympic gold medalist. This is a big, big ask of Jake Paul, but you've got to take your hat off to him for stepping up to the plate against what I would say for him is a massively live fighter.
And those are the latest GB News headlines. For now, more news in an hour.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB Digital Radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Welcome to Lee Anderson's Real World. I'm Lee Anderson, the Reform UK Member of Parliament for Ashfield, and it's nearly Christmas. Ho, ho, ho. And that's enough of that. I'll sling that there. Yeah. Anyway, I've got Jane Stevenson, former Tory MP and political commentator Kai Wilshaw on the show tonight. Jane, The BBC, our friends, they have been accused of malpractice by the President of the United States. He's suing them for $10 billion. Is it fair that the British licence fee payer should foot the bill?
Well, no, but it will be us that ultimately would have to foot the bill if President Trump's lawsuit is successful. But the BBC did make a massive cock-up here. The edit that they put out was so misleading and so wrong. I think there is a very good, strong case.
And why do you think they did it, Jane?
No idea. And reading their defence of it, saying, well, it didn't go out in the United States, it wouldn't have made any difference. It was put out during an election campaign. So, to me, it is very serious.
Could it be election interference, Kai?
No, and you know as well as I do that that's total nonsense, right? I think the legalese of this matter is that they have to prove that it caused some sort of damage or harm both to his reputation, his career. Look, the man's president of the United States. He still won the election, and that's to put aside all the questions.
Wrongdoing.
No, and I agree with you. They shouldn't have spliced their footage in that way. But did it change the effect of what Trump had done and said in the January Capitol riots? Because I'll tell you one thing he did say: if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore. They found pipe bombs in the Democratic HQ. They found Molotov cocktails near Congress. Are you really telling me that actually what the BBC spliced together wasn't a fair reporting of what actually happened that day?
I don't think you can defend the splice that they did. It took two phrases, 50 minutes apart, and made them mean something entirely different.
They've apologised for that. So they said that was wrong.
The apology was a little bit mealy-mouthed, a bit guarded.
Fine.
They should have done
But do you think it was with malice?
apology.
Do you think that they did that with malice? I think the worst they can be accused of is a bit of liberal groupthink in London. Surely. Come on,
dear Kyle. Does anybody actually in the audience, I know you're all sober, does anybody actually agree with Kai? No. No?
I'm used to being unpopular.
You've lost the mood of the public. Does anybody want to comment on this about the BBC? Anybody in the audience? Yeah. The chap here, Simon. Yeah, come pass him the microphone, please.
Yeah, thank you. A total mistrust. What they did, it's awful.
Yeah.
You know, it's unforgivable. It was done deliberately.
Done deliberately. Yeah. I think Simon's right, Kai. Why on earth would you splice two clips together to make somebody look bad? Why would you do that? You can't say it's an accident or an error or poor editing. It's deliberate.
Well, I genuinely believe that they think that it didn't change drastically the effect of what they were trying to achieve with that documentary, right? But put that aside, the other thing that we don't talk about enough is we've never had such a vindictive, thin-skinned man in the Oval Office, and this is only the latest in a series of lawsuits he's brought against not only media outlets, but law firms, banks, to bring them to heel and to use the power of the presidency to have his way and to have his revenge.
He is a litigious man.
Yes.
Why would you risk, and it is public money at risk, it's our money that pays the licence fee. Why would you do that to someone like President Trump? And just because you don't like the man has nothing to do with the fact your editorial decisions should be done with the BBC's level and responsibility to everyone in the United Kingdom to be better, to do things the right way. Even if President Trump is the most horrible man and you don't like him, that makes no difference to what you do as the BBC.
I agree, and they have to be whiter than white. The problem the BBC has is if you looked at all the footage that the BBC puts out throughout a year, you'd be sat there for decades and decades. It's very difficult when you're being held to the worst thing that you've done in an entire year. There's hundreds of thousands of hours worth of footage. They're going to get it wrong.
Everyone makes mistakes, but when you make a mistake and when it is against a potential president during an election campaign, the apology, I think it was delayed in appearing. I don't know why it wasn't immediate.
Well, the outrage was delayed because nobody picked up on this until the report became public.
Well, I think someone within the BBC...
Can I ask you a question, Kai? Do you think there's a hint of political bias within the BBC?
Yeah, of course. Of course. Let's be honest about the thing. There's bias in all our institutions.
Which way, though? Which way are they leaning?
I'd say liberal. No, I wouldn't say left-wing. Our definitions, liberal. Our definitions of left-wing might be differently. But yeah, of course. And I think they have a bit of a duty to have a reset and think, how do we actually represent everybody across the UK? They don't do that sufficiently at the minute. But does it take us beyond the point when the BBC is able to be trusted? No.
Trusted? Let's talk about trust. I mean, the BBC is an organisation that in the past has brought us such pillars of the community as Jimmy Savile, Rolf Harris, Stuart Hall, Philip Schofield, Hugh Edwards. I could go on and on. Is it an institution, Jane? By the way, they're not here to defend themselves. But is it an institution that can be respected anymore?
I think the BBC does some really valuable things, but I also think it has gone down this rabbit hole of diversity and box ticking at the expense of certain types of people. So when I was in Parliament, question time came to Wolverhampton. I put on social media, go down, ask some questions. It was a string of replies from people in Wolverhampton saying, they don't represent me. That's not a programme for people like me. They wouldn't answer my questions. And that's the perception of the BBC. It's this very middle class, very London, you know, sort of woke-leaning channel. It is very difficult. I do accept the BBC has a really tough job.
Well, let's talk about how we fund the BBC, Kai, because Lisa Nandy's been making some noises recently in Parliament, and one of the headlines in one of the newspapers last week was that they're going to provide some of the BBC services, maybe free of charge, to people who are out of work on benefits. Meanwhile, the workers that don't have that much time to go to watch TV are going to have to pay for the full service.
Yeah, look, I don't necessarily agree with that idea that people on benefits should be getting it for free. What I do agree with is the charter renewal of the BBC that happens, every 5 years or so. It's coming up now. And it looks to me like it's an opportunity to say all options are on the table. Some of the other things they've talked about is like a subscription model, an advertisement, advertisement model, so a top-up or something. So, there has to be some way of changing the way that we pay for the BBC based on how people consume it. Not because of the Trump thing and not because of people losing trust in the BBC. The reason this is needed now is the media landscape has changed in the last few years, and they haven't had a reckoning about it.
So, Jane,
for whatever reason,
when Trump sues the BBC, in my mind, around the world, people will be thinking that he's suing the British state, because it's our state broadcaster.
Yeah, and this has damaged our global brand as a country. I think the BBC has made a massive error. I would just have liked their apology to be more genuine, more sort of quick in coming. And reading their letter, the sort of legal points they're making about it wasn't broadcast, don't start quibbling. Just hold your hands up and say, we have massively got this wrong, and we apologise wholeheartedly.
No, but those are points of law that they're quibbling.
But that was
because
from
that's
the off. They were starting to go, well, we don't think it changed the outcome. That doesn't matter. You made a mistake.
But it does matter for this case, which he will lose, by the way, as he knows, because he's lost a million cases. ABC, New York Times, Washington.
What is it, Kai? What is it about this country? And it's not just the BBC. It's Labour's front bench as well. Or the whole cabinet at some stage have made awful comments about President Trump. Where's this hatred come from?
Look, I think President Trump speaks his mind and says things that people aren't willing to say. And we're coming out of a period when people were scared of saying things like that. And I'm glad we're out of that period. But I think at
someone's
that time,
politics, but they've been personally insulting. And I always try not to sort of make... This is the elected president. And I think for someone like David Lammy, I know, has made some choice remarks about him. And it's just not acceptable. And Labour, these same people now are our representatives going into the Oval Office, talking about a man they've called all sorts of horrible...
He's shown that he's willing to look past those things sometimes. David Lammy and his romance with J.D. Vance, and Trump seems to like Keir Starmer for whatever reason. I can't imagine why. But it seems to have not made that much of a difference in terms of our international standing. But I don't know why.
I disagree.
People love to hate Trump.
Yeah.
People love to hate Trump, and sometimes rightly.
Yeah.
But I think
sometimes
he's,
they just go
he's
too
the
far.
king of trolling.
But at a time, Jane, when there was a debate or a statement in Parliament recently about electoral interference from foreign states. Now, it's a bit rich when we're debating this, when our national broadcaster is interfering in American politics.
Yeah, I mean, they have to prove that will be proved in the case. But the broadcast was available, I think, on BritBox. But also, people do comment on Twitter. People see something and on television in the UK. That can go, you know, we've seen Elon Musk comments on the UK.
Yeah.
British people comment on American politics. And during an election cycle, for the Panorama programme to have gone out with that edit, I think they're going to have a really tough time proving no one in Florida, no one in the United States saw that. Well, you have to prove it. So how can you prove they did or didn't see it? But it will be an interesting court case.
Yeah.
I think they're in trouble.
But the question stands, Carl. Is it right that the British TV licence fee payer have to foot the bill?
Yes.
Jane.
For better, for worse, yes.
Unfortunately, we do foot the bill. I mean, but that's the same with all public bodies. There's no consequence for whoever did the edit. They're not going to have to cough up.
Well,
it's us.
Responding to the lawsuit, a BBC spokesperson said, as we have made clear previously, we will be defending this case. We are not going to make further comment on ongoing legal proceedings. Coming up next, we've got Charlotte Evans, who's an aesthetic business owner, and she's in Real World, Real People. Do not go away.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Welcome back. It's time for Real World, Real People. And I've got Charlotte Evans here today from the capital of common sense, from Ashfield. You're an aesthetics business owner, obviously. And you've got a story that needs telling, Charlotte. I've got a declaration. Actually, Charlotte is a friend of mine as well. Just a couple of years ago, you was ringing me up at midnight one night, you and Carl, your partner, because you'd been subjected to something horrific in your home after you'd advertised one of your cars for sale. Tell us what happened.
We put a car for sale on, I don't know if I can say it, Auto Trader.
Yeah, you can say that.
And we had two gents come to have a look at the car. And it's some things I can't remember about it because it was quite horrific at the time. They came to have a look and they dealt mainly with my partner. When they came in, they were with us for quite a while. They were acting a little bit weird, but we didn't think much of it at the time. They had a good look at the car. They wanted to disappear for a bit. They went for some lunch and they came back again. And then before we know it, they pulled a gun out and then they cuffed my partner. And then it just all sort of turned so nasty and bad at that point.
So what happened next? Obviously, Carl's handcuffed up.
Yeah, Carl.
They've got a gun.
Yeah.
You must have been terrified.
Yeah, I tried to call the police, so I had my phone on me when I was hiding it. He took it off me. He had hold of me. My little boy was in the house at the time, and I didn't realise he'd come downstairs and he saw what was going off, ran off, and went up to call the police. I mean, it's still kind of quite traumatic when you think back. It's very surreal, the whole thing that happened. And then, for some reason, I kind of just lost control of the situation, what was going on. Carl was being pinned at the time to the sofa, and the chap was, I believe he was saying he was going to stab Carl, and one of the other guys had the gun at the time. I remember pulling all these things out of the bag at one point, and there was a petrol can.
So they came with petrol?
Well, it was hidden in a big holdall at the time. So I pulled the petrol can out. They had all sorts. So at this point, I'm panicking even more. So
petrol, plastic ties to tie you up?
Yeah, cable ties.
And what was you thinking?
Honestly, at that point, oh my God, my little boy's in the house. We're going to die. What, you know? My head was absolutely in a whirlwind. So, but when the guy had hold of me, I could feel the gun. I couldn't articulate really or say much. I think it was just pure panic, and then just thought I just need to fight back, because one of the chaps had said the little boy has gone. Wow. So at that point I knew Jude had probably seen what was going on in the house, and then at that point I picked up, we have got a large vase in the living room, so I picked it up to try and hit one of the guys, and I had my ironing board, strangely, in the living room at the time. We have a big generator iron. I decided that I was going to try and hit the other guy with that as they ran out. But luckily, with doing this, they did run out and they left the property.
So they panicked, they left,
Yeah.
they ran away, but they weren't the brightest of criminals, were they, Charlotte?
Not really. They were a bit stupid.
Yeah.
They were with us quite a period of time. They had tea, so they left fingerprints everywhere. They were in and out. They left cigarettes outside the house.
Obviously with DNA on.
Yeah, exactly. So they were very stupid with what they did if they were trying to pull this off. They wouldn't just take the keys for the car and go. They then wanted the laptop in order to make the transfer, and obviously wanted to do a lot more transferring of cash.
They'd probably emptied your bank accounts.
Yeah, when we look
took
back,
the
I think
cars, because it was, I mean, I don't want to say what type of car it was, but it was an high-end car worth
Yeah.
quite a bit of money.
Yeah.
And they'd seen the advert, come to your house, and you're quite vulnerable, aren't you, when you're in your own home?
Yeah, I mean, we're down private drive, so we're gated. So I don't know how they planned to sort of get out and do what they were doing.
Like I said, they weren't the brightest, were they?
No, very stupid, but they had pulled this before.
Yeah.
We were informed that they did this.
And I think they travelled, was it Bradford they travelled from? Was it
Yeah.
Bradford, West Yorkshire?
Yeah,
And how long after were they caught?
the next day.
Next day, so they weren't very bright, were they?
No.
And where are they currently residing?
So they're in prison locally. One chap got hit 18 years, the other one got 12 years. It took a long time to get to that decision, though, because they were still held for over a year before it actually came to trial.
And were they both from Bradford?
One chap was from Bradford, the other guy was an immigrant.
So what sort of safeguards you got in place now? Are you still advertising cars in Auto Trader?
No.
No?
Never again.
And any advice for people out there watching this when you invite people into your own house?
So we have cameras, but obviously this didn't deter them anyway.
Yeah.
They did look at the cameras a lot of the time. Be very aware, because what we've realised is this happens more often than what it shouldn't. And we were very lucky. We were really, really lucky with this. It could have been a lot worse. We could have had more injuries than what we did. It just leaves scars. It's not very nice. What went on for a long time, we had quite a bit of therapy and help afterwards, especially for my little boy. He was only 10 at the time.
Yeah, so Jude, your boy, 10 years old, how did that affect him? That must be terrifying for a 10-year-old.
It was frightening. I did send him to school the next day. I made him go. I wanted to keep everything as normal as possible. Very cruel mother. He got a bravery award from the police. They were very proud at what he did and how he dealt with it. He's okay. He's not bad now. It's not something we talk about loads.
That's it then, Charlotte. Hopefully that's that put to bed now. Hopefully they'll, do a long sentence, learn the error of their ways, and for people watching out there, just be careful who you invite into your own home. Charlotte, thank you.
Thank you.
Coming up next, we've got right versus left.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Cates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's time for Right versus Left with Jane Stevenson and Bertie against Kai Wilshaw. This is going to be a great debate. Look, we saw recently that Keir Starmer, who bleats on a lot about global warming, net zero and cutting costs and wasteful spending and all this, he went to the women's football final in Geneva on a private jet, Kai, £60,000, took 10 members of staff with him. Is he an hypocrite?
Well, maybe, but I think it's the right thing to do, this. Actually, you should have taken more people. Why not take a delegation of people? I love to see when politicians are unashamedly willing to go out to bat for their country. You know who I liked seeing on the grid when Lando Norris won in Abu Dhabi, the recent finale? Yeah. Nigel Farage.
Yeah, but you know the difference is, Kai, the difference is the taxpayer didn't pay for that.
And if he were Prime Minister, they would have. And it's right. And you could put aside whether Keir Starmer's the best person to be out there. I know the Labour Parliamentary Party have questions about that, right? Yeah. And then put aside the net zero stuff as well. The fact of the matter is, foreign leaders have to travel, our own leaders have to travel, and it's right that this is one thing that he did go for, and he should do it more.
Is he an hypocrite, Jane?
I have no issue with our Prime Minister attending a really important sports fixture. Yeah. There were commercial flights going that same day. I think he should have to explain why he couldn't take an ordinary flight there, but I think this is a wider point. It's not about this particular thing. Yeah. It's the fact that Labour in opposition absolutely promised they would clamp down on this. If you sit in opposition and say evil Tories taking private jets, they did the same thing on highest tax burden, they did the same thing on sleaze and cronyism. The minute they're in, you've seen, you know, a whole new wardrobe for the Prime Minister. Yeah. You've seen so much rubbish. Yeah. You've seen private jet use, David Lammy, £2 million bill in 3 months. You have seen so much hypocrisy. And that is why, if you promise you're going to be different and you promise you're going to do something better, that is why the British people are genuinely angry,
well, they are
not
fed
just
up, Guy,
disappointed.
because, I mean, Jane's quite right. We've seen the private jets, we've seen the gifts, we've seen the private boxes at football matches, I think, for the Prime Minister. Just chuck in the mix a bit of tax dodging and from the former Deputy Prime Minister. Surely they're just a bunch of hypocrites, mate.
Lee, you and I both know the level of sleaze that we saw from 14 years of Tories was off the charts. It doesn't even register.
It's not a competition.
To what? I know it's not a competition, but taking boxes at matches, flying in private jets, I really don't. I think it's thin gruel.
We've seen
really.
the corruption minister have to resign over corruption. We've seen the rail minister
in Bangladesh,
having to.
So you're trusting, trusting the Bangladeshi authorities on their words, not too
Thin ice. Why did she resign?
She resigned early on, presumably.
So why did she resign?
There's no doubt that something's gone on there, but to call it corruption,
why did she resign if there's nothing to answer? Louise Hay resigned. We have seen a lot since the election.
From a historic, I think they've been overzealous resigning. I think they should stick to their guns, frankly, because they know, as well as if you look into any of these, the fact of the matter is, on a scale totally different to what we've seen in the past.
Wardrobe, I don't think it is. I think Labour have been equally as bad, if not worse. Yeah. And I think it's the sanctimonious... I called Keir Starmer sanctimonious Starmer while I was in Parliament. Yeah. He is so holier than thou. I'm afraid if you talk the talk, you need to, when you get into office, you need to walk that walk. And people expected him to be like that. And they are really genuinely angry.
That is where I do agree with you. You know, if you're going to be, you have to be whiter than white if you're going to be to sort of throwing those allegations around.
But let's talk
on the substance,
let's talk a little bit more about the hypocrisy of all this. So we've got Starmer's saying they're going to clamp down on freebies and stuff like this. We know he hasn't. But then we've got people like Ed Miliband, who is the net zero. Well, I call it, for me, is Czar. Let's call him a net zero czar. There's other names you could call him, and not on a family show like this. But he's bleating on about net zero, about saving the planet. He's hugging trees. He's hanging around fields, playing his ukulele. Something not quite right there. But then he flies to COP30, again, a private jet with a load of staff with him. And they use a road which has been built in a rainforest. They've literally chopped a rainforest down to build a 6-lane motorway to a venue to talk about saving the rainforest. What a bunch of hypocrites.
No, look, COP looked completely ridiculous. We all know that climate diplomacy, you have to fly across the world, and we're one of the largest economies in the world. He took a delegation of business leaders. Do you know how many British businesses would have been out there trying to make a difference and try to contribute to the fight against climate change?
Well, there may be difference to emissions getting on planes.
I tell you what, Jane, you know, when I was, we were similar age, and when we was at school, they used to talk to us about how much rainforest has been chopped down every single week in South America. And we're chopping a rainforest down to let these idiots go to talk about saving rainforests.
Nothing compared
Guy,
to
please reduce your attitude, aggressive attitude. We'll let Jane speak.
You told me to come out fighting.
The dog is ready to pounce.
The dog will get nasty. You can see he's a guard dog. But it does look appalling.
Yeah.
You know, we've got online meetings. We sent hundreds of people over to COP. It just seems completely ludicrous.
Yeah.
To jump, and when you hear they're chopping trees down in order to facilitate a climate conference, it's just ridiculous. If it sounds ridiculous, it probably is ridiculous.
Yeah. Come on, Kai, you're going to defend this. Come on.
No, I'm not going to defend the chopping down of the road, but if you compare, honestly, the amount of rainforest that's chopped down every day for logging, for agriculture, it pales in comparison.
Well,
so this is really, it's not, on the grand scheme of things, it's not very much, but I think it is ridiculous. I agree with you, it's ridiculous. But that's a matter for the Brazilian government, not ours.
Well, what about our government then, Kai? What about...
They should have been there.
You talk about chopping trees down. Let's stick on the net zero for a while. We have a power station, Drax, in North Yorkshire, and they used to run on coal from a nearby coal mine. The coal mine shut, and I think Ed Miliband was up in arms when the coal mine shut because it was in his constituency. But now we're chopping trees down in North America, making wood pellets out of them and shipping them over in diesel-guzzling cargo ships onto diesel-guzzling trains and lorries, sending them to Drax Power Station, where they are set fire to produce electricity. And both governments have been responsible for this.
I think there needs to be a bit of a reckoning on the energy mix in this country, right? I think even Ed Miliband is coming round to that.
Really?
Right? With I'm not sure he is. With some of the backsliding on some decisions around oil fields in the North Sea and so on.
Let me tell you about Ed Miliband.
We're getting to a point.
It is still a ludicrous policy. And I said, when I was in Parliament, I said privately to colleagues, most of my constituents would chuck Greta Thunberg on a bonfire. They see net zero as a middle-class obsession to make them feel guilty about going on their one holiday every year. If you look at the North Sea oil that we own as a state, the jobs that creates, the fact we will be relying on this fuel for decades. So I'm all for being kind to the planet, but it needs to be financially possible. And all the government, I completely think Kemi is saying some very positive things about being sensible, about preserving jobs, but to ship coal, to ship oil around the world, to buy it as a nation when we can produce our own is
it madness, Guy?
No, we need to do it. It needs to be different, right? But you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater completely. We could be a clean energy superpower. We do need to use the North Sea. We do need to use the North Sea oil more. I agree. We need to look at, have a common sense solution. Things like Drax. We shouldn't be shipping in those wood chips. But still, to give up on clean energy entirely and all the different types of ones that we never talk about.
Give up on it.
Well,
and it was the Lib
Dems.
It was the Lib Dems that stopped the Conservatives building nuclear power when the coalition government came in.
So we've got, guys, we've got some former coal miners in the audience today. Does anyone want to speak about our energy strategy. Steve Wright used to be a machine driver at Welbeck Colliery. I caught him awake many times underground. What do you think, Steve? Shall we get a few of the pits back open and produce our own coal?
Yes, definitely. They should be opening some more coal mines. The good camaraderie.
Yeah.
Down there with the different lads. Some of the coal faces was only a metre high, less than a metre high. The colliery that I worked at, the Welbeck Colliery, was good. It was 2 metres high. I should open some coal mines like that.
Yeah.
Where they can produce the coal and the energy, and it would work out much cheaper than these solar panels, these wind farm, the wind turbines. I think they cost about £3 million to be supplied and fixed. They'll never recoup that money back. Yeah. It's all like green energy. It's nothing. And people that are supplying these are making loads and loads of money out of it.
And of course, Steve's quite right, because we've got a country like China, Jane, which is leading the world in renewables, but still opening coal-fired power stations. And here's this stupidity. We're buying solar panels and windmills, if you want to call them that are made in China from electricity produced by coal. And then they're saying our carbon footprint has gone down. We're just exporting it somewhere else.
For clarity, I work in industrial solar energy at the moment, and I've got solar panels on my house, but only because our electricity is so expensive. Yeah. It makes sense to do that at the moment. But yes, I mean, it clearly, we need a mix. We have to, being kind to the planet, really sensible. Just, I don't think anyone disagrees. I don't think any political party disagrees. But it's about the cost.
But
it's
Ed
about
Miliband
the financial
disagrees.
cost. Well,
You know just as well as I do that the fact that we had subsidies for things like solar means that the price has dropped precipitously to the point where now we can enlarge the use of solar.
OK, then on that note, we're going to finish, Carl. Just quickly...
why not do another energy tax?
No, but you say the price... Has anybody noticed a reduction in their energy bills?
No.
I think next time we bring you on, Kai, we'll bring the lie detector test onto the show. But coming up next, we've got abuse survivor Paul Remner.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you're contemplating a trip overseas at the moment, it is dry at first this weekend for many places, but low pressure will develop and it will bring increasingly heavy rain to many by the end of the weekend. We do have some rain to talk about. Parts of the south of Greece, southern Italy seeing that rain at first. Drier for the rest of Italy, dry for much of Iberia, but in between weather systems, a front pushing some rain into Portugal later. And then a developing area of low pressure will turn things increasingly wet across Italy and Greece.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Warning, the following interview contains themes some viewers may find upsetting.
Well, that sounds like last orders at the bar. We've got Paul Remner. You was on GB News just a few weeks ago, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I saw you outside. I was having a crafty pint, waiting to go home, and we had a chat, and you told me your story, which is sad beginnings, Paul. Well, it's more than sad, isn't it? It's life-changing, horrific beginnings. Can you just tell us?
Yes, so when I was 5 years old, I was raped and abused by one of my dad's good friends. He was babysitting me and took me upstairs and raped and abused me. And from then, for what he said to me is that in my sleep, he would come and get me, kill me, hurt me in my sleep. So I've always suffered badly with night terrors, PTSD.
As a 5-year-old, did you think about telling your parents, or was you too scared?
No, never ever come to my mind. That, so after when my parents came back, when they said, "Oh, has he been good?" He said, "Oh, he's just been a little terror as usual," and then I just carried on as normal, as if it was just a normal day.
And was it once?
Just once, yeah.
Just once. Wow. Yeah. And how did you carry that through your childhood?
Badly, really. You know, I was always suffered with with my schoolwork, got into lots of fights, trouble, drugs, drinking, and everything like that. You know, but when I was 19, 20 years old, I told my ex-partner at the time what had happened. She was the first person I ever told, and I still never went on to tell anyone for another. It was 32 years after. That's when I told my parents. It took me 32 years to tell my parents. How did that
conversation go?
Not good. Telling my mum was the hardest thing.
How did your partner react to that?
She was calm. Because I've been like that for years. So you know.
So she managed to pull you around and calm you down.
Just calm me down. You know, she didn't freak out or anything like that.
Must be an amazing woman.
So and then that was it. Then I went to the doctors and I said I need some help with this because these dreams are getting too bad now. And then I went to the police. And when I went to the police, he was already in prison for raping a 9-year-old girl. So another male came forward 2 years later, and they said, would they open my case again? And I was like, of course I would. So I had to go back through it again. But after I first went to the police, because I was trying to get closure on it, and when they told me that, I was like, this isn't helping me at all, because, you know, I was trying to get closure on it. You've told me this, and then I didn't know where to go from there. I mean, those 2 years were quite bad.
So how long after the incident was it, you say, that you actually went to court?
Two years from me first going to the police. It took another 2 years.
No, but how long from when he abused you?
Oh, that would have been 34, 35 years.
35 years, so he could have done it to other people as well?
Yeah. Well, when I found out that he was already in prison for raping this 9-year-old girl, little girl, I broke down because I blame myself for that happening. Because if I'd have gone to the police sooner, he wouldn't have gone on to do any of that.
Wow. And where is this thing now?
He's he come out of prison last year because I had to do a report every year to try and keep him in because he was trying to get parole every year.
Yeah.
So I had to keep writing letters to say how it's affecting me, and eventually I knew it was going to.
So it's always going to be with you, Paul, isn't it? But you've done things in your life to try and cope with it. I mean, tell us about that.
So I got into fitness modelling quite a bit.
What's fitness modelling? Go on, tell me. I'm a bit ignorant.
It's not so much like it's like bodybuilding sort of thing.
Yeah.
But
prancing about, showing your guns off and your
I just like walking around in my pants.
Can you get a t-shirt that fits you next time? Because
it was.
I don't wear it, to be honest. But no, it's serious stuff, isn't it?
It is, yeah. But it helps a lot with my mental health because it's never going to go away.
Yeah.
So this is how I kind of deal with it by doing my fitness and stuff. And I was just doing it just to keep fit at first, but then I went and entered the competition and then went on, and then I won the British Championships, I won the World Championships last year, and I'm competing again next year in the British Championships next year.
You know what really makes me angry, Paul, is that there'll be a lot of little children suffering what you've been through, especially over the Christmas period when they're spending more and more time with their so-called friends and family. It must be horrific. I mean, I don't know how you've coped with that, mate. How'd you cope with it?
I've got a good support group. The therapist and everything I went to was called Arch Teesside, and then I've gone to another one called We Are Survivors in Manchester, which is big organisations, and talking to those guys, knowing that I'm not just the only person this happens to. There's a lot of people out there in my situation, and the whole point of me doing all this is to bring more awareness to it. There is help out there to talk about it more, open up, and that there's hope at the end of it, not to live in these dark days.
You must have been through some dark times.
I have,
I'm proper on the edge.
Oh yeah, but I've tried to turn my life twice.
Do you think there's enough support out there?
I think there is now. There is. Back then, I don't, because most times that you hear about it now, this historical abuse, it was always kind of like my age when I was like in the 80s and things like that. A lot more historical abuses I hear more now. Wow. And I just think there is a lot more groups. Social media, there's lots of things on social media because I follow lots of things on social media. There's lots of things on social media.
It's difficult though sometimes for men, don't it? Especially macho men.
Yeah.
To try
but I'm a softie really.
Softie, and we all need a hug, don't we?
Of course,
we need a bit of love, I suppose.
Definitely.
So Paul, we've got a pint pot here.
Yeah.
We're going to see, test your pint pulling skills.
Hopefully I'll do a better one.
Yes. And while we've got you here, this is your book. It's called Breaking the Silence, and it says A Champion's Journey by Paul Remner. What's this book about?
It's me coming from those dark days to now.
Yeah.
I'm living a good life now.
What do you say good life? What's the good life for you, Paul?
I've got lots of good friends, lots of family. Me talking about it, opening up, I feel like I'm in a better place. I know how to deal with it now. So.
And does it make you feel a lot better when you talk about it?
A lot better, yeah, absolutely.
No guilt there. That's all gone. No. God, that must be awful, mate.
Yeah. This is always going to be with me for the rest of my life. So how I talk about, I want to help other people, be positive, and get people to live a better life than.
And I know you've done a few media appearances. I know you was on GB a few weeks back. How was that? How's that panned out? Has people been in touch with you?
They have, straight after the show.
Have they?
Yeah, I got lots of messages from people saying that this has happened to their child. Thank you for doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
Bringing this awareness.
And are you active on social media as well?
I am, yeah.
What's your?
It's just a Paul Remmer.
Paul Remner, is that Twitter or is that Instagram? Or
Instagram is @PaulRemmer, Facebook Paul Remmer, and Twitter is just @Paul Remmer.
And people message you through there.
Anybody can message me through there.
No, I think it's a story that needs telling, Paul.
Yeah.
I mean, this time we've got a happy ending, haven't we?
Yeah.
It's not always a happy ending for some people. But the pints, that's had a happy ending as well, to be honest with you.
That's a good pint,
much better than some of the riff-raff we've had on in the past pulling pints. But I want to give you a 10 out of 10 for that.
Thank you very much.
I want to give you a 10 out of 10 for telling your story and reaching out and being incredibly brave. Probably 1 out of 10 for the T-shirt. Sorry, mate. It's I couldn't wear that, and I know you've got the guns and the body for it, but I can't imagine me wearing that on a beach somewhere. So
let's just try.
If you've been affected by anything on this show tonight, you can report it to the NSPCC helpline by calling 0808 800 5000. Please call the Samaritans on 116 123. Thanks for joining me on Lee Anderson's Real World. Been another great show, but coming up next we've got Friday Night with Matt Goodwin.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good evening. This is your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Now, for many, it is going to be a largely dry night to come, and with that, the potential for a bit of mist and fog to develop. And then, out in the west, there's a front that's pushing its way in, and that's set to bring some wet weather across western parts in particular as we go into tomorrow. Before that, though, as I mentioned, it is largely dry. Just a few showery outbreaks of rain across parts of Scotland and perhaps some western and southern counties of England and Wales, maybe a few pushing into parts of Northern Ireland too. Most places, though, having a dry night with clear skies, allowing temperatures to drop a bit chillier than some recent nights. Can't rule out a touch of frost and a few patches of mist and fog first thing tomorrow morning as well. Starting off tomorrow then, it is going to be a brighter story than some recent days this week. A few spots of rain affecting Orkney, a little bit of rain across some southern parts of Scotland as well, but mostly bright, although there could be some cloud around across parts of Scotland and similar across Northern Ireland, just a few showers towards eastern coastal parts. More sunny skies for England and Wales. Like I mentioned, though, there will be a few pockets of mist and fog here and there. Vale of York, for example, and other prone spots. Any mist and fog could take a little while to clear as we go through tomorrow, but it will eventually clear and lift away. And then apart from the odd shower here and there, for many it is going to be a fine day with some decent sunshine on offer. Just that front that I highlighted earlier on pushing into parts of the Republic of Ireland, Devon, Cornwall and South West Wales bringing some wet and windy weather. Ahead of that, temperatures, well, they're a little bit above average for the time of year. Sunday looks set to be a cloudier day for many places. There will be a few outbreaks of rain here and there, nothing especially heavy for most places, just a bit grey, a bit damp at times, but worth noting could be some more persistent, perhaps heavy at times rain across parts of the southwest as we go through the afternoon.
I'm Andrew Pearce. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country. There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor. Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Stephen Dixon, and thanks for joining us on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We love Great Britain. We love its history, its culture and its tradition, and that's why we're so proud to be part of GB News.
You look genuinely emotional. Oh, come here.
GB News does pay attention to those who are ignored by the mainstream media. The majority of this country whose forefathers fought and died to maintain liberty, to fight for freedom of speech.
The rule of law, the rights of property and democracy. This is the heritage that our country should be so proud of.
Which of course includes our Christian heritage. There's been a huge resurgence in the number of people going to church. Perhaps they're not finding what they're looking for, and they're looking for something a bit deeper, a bit more truthful, a bit more akin to Britain's Christian heritage.
That's right, get ready, because the most exciting night in general election history starts now!
How are you? Good to see you. Good to see you. Well, thank you very much to our wonderful live studio audience. It's already been a busy night. Anyway, it's 9 p.m. I'm Patrick Christie's Tonight.
Our friends are starving to death in UK prisons.
Have sandwich then. Do you have any sympathy for the Palestine Action protesters on hunger strike? No. OK, and?
배 같은 믿음과 사랑으로 우리 무력을 사상 정신과 절신.
Well, that might have looked like Kim Jong-un, but was it Keir John Starmer? Yeah? I mean, seriously, Starmer is accused of running a dictatorship after cancelling even more elections. Plus, protesters attack the King's chair in the House of Lords. What shall we do with them? And Tom Skinner is suing the BBC. Yes, that's right. He says that Strictly Come Dancing vote is rigged. Well, is this the worst year ever for the Beeb? Also,
there was never been a proper focus on prevention. This isn't just about how we make it so that victims have a better service. This is also about how we prevent that violence from being able to happen in the first place.
On that note, do boys need anti-misogyny lessons in school? What do we think? Do you think we could have done? No? All the men saying it, though, isn't it? All the men. All the women here are going, yeah, actually, he could have done with a couple, you know. Anyway, right, on my panel tonight, we have got journalist and broadcaster Linda Jubilee. We've got broadcasting royalty Christo Koufas. Everybody's favourite lefty is Benjamin Butterworth. Oh, it is Panto season, mate. It is Panto season. And the former Tory special advisor, all-round great guy, James Price. And I regret to inform you, they're back again. Oh, I know, the whole thing is awful. Anyway, get ready, Britain. Here we go. Is this the worst year ever for the BBC? That's next.
Patrick, thank you. The top stories. David Walliams strongly denies allegations of inappropriate behaviour and was not informed about or party to an investigation by HarperCollins, his spokesperson has said this evening. He was dropped by his publisher, HarperCollins. The decision follows the Daily Telegraph investigation into claims the children's author had harassed junior women during his time working with the company. According to the Telegraph, a female employee who raised concerns about Walliams' alleged conduct later left HarperCollins after reaching a settlement which included a 5-figure payment. The publisher reportedly launched an internal inquiry in 2023 after a complaint was made, interviewing multiple staff members who had professional contact with the author. A spokesman for HarperCollins told The Telegraph, after careful consideration and under the leadership of its new CEO, HarperCollins UK has decided not to publish any new titles by David Walliams. The author is aware of this decision. They go on to say HarperCollins takes employee well-being extremely seriously and has processes in place for reporting and investigating concerns. To respect the privacy of individuals, we do not comment on internal matters. Mr. Walliams has now strongly denied the allegations made against him. The US Justice Department will soon begin releasing long-awaited files related to Jeffrey Epstein as mandated by a new law, a top official says. But the files will not be released in their entirety before the legal deadline, the US Deputy Attorney General says. The US Department of Justice are legally obligated to make all files related to the investigation into Epstein public by midnight on Friday following the passing of the Epstein Files Transparency Act. Epstein was found